I think it's very unfortunate when innocent, it's a very small number, but when innocent people or American citizens or legal residents are caught up in these raids. The problem is illegal aliens don't walk around the country with a big sign saying, I'm an illegal alien.
That's why due process is necessary, motherfucker. Thank you for proving the fucking point. Yeah, they don't walk around looking different unless you profile them. So how do we know whether they're legal or illegal? First off, you gotta have some justification. You gotta have some reasonable cause to believe that they're not in this country legally. And then also, you have to have a process by which to determine that. That's due process. Oh my God.
Only 15 of those were regime change. Sometimes they were interventions to just make the regime act a little better.
But in the interventions blew back too.
Time out, that is a regime. Hold on. We didn't do a regime change. We just did a regime adjustment. We just did a regime correction, fine-tuning of the regime, but it wasn't changed. It was just altered. Like, what, Michael? Fucking ridiculous, man. Like, oh my God. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in to this video. I know it's been a minute since I've posted my last reaction video, a long-form video on YouTube. My apologies for that. It's just, been busy, as well as I'm trying to kind of shift my content in the way that I do longer form content. I really want to kind of have my videos be more intentional and less kind of just press play, listen, spout off the first thing that comes to mind. That's what I'm going to do for this video because, I think these bar fights were interesting. I want to kind of share my thoughts with you, and I don't really have another better idea. So instead of postponing it and not giving you anything, I think I'm just gonna, for these 2 episodes of Bar Fight, as the one is you'll see that I'm primarily, and that's gonna come out later this week, that I'll also do a reaction video to, as well as this one I was involved in a little bit. Wanted to give you that. I wanted to react to it, as well as I think I have a lot of thoughts because obviously I was there for it. And I just thought, yeah, interesting topics were discussed, and I wanted to give my input and thoughts on it. So if you're tuning in, thank you so much for watching this, and I think this will be an interesting one. I'll happily give you my behind the scenes notes and details of kind of what happened as someone who was there at Knowles' bar fights and who got to be a part of this. So in terms of stuff that's going on, there's no shortage of things that are happening, whether it's Trump sending a threatening memo to the Prime Minister of Greenland, letting him know that peace is over because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. Because, of course, it's indicative of someone who should win the Nobel Peace Prize if they threaten someone with no peace or not being peaceful, that they won't be peaceful if they don't receive the prize or in retaliation for it. That's really a really kind of ringing endorsement of the fact that you should have gotten the Peace Prize. It's ludicrous. It's not surprising, but still disappointing nonetheless. So, I don't have much more to say directly on that. Obviously, we're seeing an increased violence of ICE agents towards individuals, just U.S. citizens who are being brutalized, citizens and non-citizens alike. It's really, really sad to see. And, I hope that you all are out there making your voices heard in whatever capacity you can and just staying in the fight. As I've talked about before, the best weapon against fascism is an educated and informed populace. So doing what you can to remain informed, educated, and out there is very, very important. So, I don't have too many more housekeeping things or announcements to make here. Always definitely looking for more opportunities to do this. I was grateful for the opportunity to be a part of one of these bar fights. Like I said, my episode will be coming out later this week. But my good friends Adam Mockler and Lauren Peretra were part of this, and it was an interesting episode. So I wanted to react to it, give you guys my thoughts, and So obviously this is not a blind reaction. I've not watched the video in full, if that makes sense. So I've not watched the whole thing since it's come out. Obviously I was there listening to the whole thing, so I have some thoughts, but I once again do not have extensive notes prepared that I want to bring up, but I still want to give you my thoughts on everything that happened, kind of what happened when the cameras cut, and all of that. It's pretty good. So that's kind of all I've got. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Preferably maybe wait till the end of the video, before commenting, but it's kind of all I've got, and I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I enjoyed being there and filming my episode and being there for this. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Did she hit him with her car?
In the same way
yes
that I
or no?
hit people driving out of the Walmart parking lot.
I don't support violence, but some of you guys have never had your ass kicked, and it really shows.
Listen, I've almost gotten hit by a deranged...
This guy was
You
wild.
guys are like,
That
"Yeehaw,"
questioner
for
was
like
insane.
not feeding babies.
All right, welcome everybody everybody to Bar Fight. I'm delighted to be joined by our two esteemed guests, including our first ever returning fighter. He's dusted himself off, Adam Mockler.
You guys are quite literally taking an 80-20 position on this.
Because they've been lied to about what happened.
If you want a job where you can go terrorize, ICE is for you.
Our second guest, marketing and influencer sensation. Least necessary she/her pronouns in her bio. It's Lauren Peretra.
That's funny.
Here's how it works. We'll be debating two of the three most controversial topics of our day. The bell rings. We duke it out for that round. And then our friends in the crowd can come up to the microphones and pick a fight with any of us. But do not wait, because there is a time limit for each round, and anyone who comes up to the mic can win special prizes and a seat at our VIP table, sponsored by Redneck Riviera Whiskey. Lady and gentlemen, are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's time for round one. Yeah. Okay, now I have all the topics here. That
Do you guys know how the structure works?
I'm going to try to make it so
I
you
know
don't
a little
who
bit more
picked
about
what.
this because of the myself being involved in it, obviously. But they changed up the entire structure of the whole thing, if you guys were interested. It's usually where everyone read their own prompt. But of course, since the audience is so stacked in favor of Michael, they always cheered for his prompts because they're all lemmings who support him, of course. So Michael just switched up all of the topics and made them sound conservative. It was interesting the way he decided to phrase my prompts and some of theirs. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. I'll stop talking. I'll just let it kind of play here.
Rephrase it a little bit. First one. The ICE agent in Minneapolis did nothing wrong. That one's going to win, I bet. Okay. Hold on. We got some more you can pick from. Trump is not corrupt at all.
Sounds like
you're
yours.
No one agrees with that.
The next one. We have a major Somali problem, and we need white men to save us.
It's wild.
Whoa. All right, then we will pick that one. Pro-life politics is about saving babies, not controlling women's bodies. Whoa, okay. All right. Trump is putting Americans first. Okay.
They don't
Very
sound
little
too sure
cheer
about that one. I don't know.
Yeah. The Venezuela strike was as American as Taco Bell. Wow. All right, so we got some close ones. I think the pro-life one. Yeah, okay, all right.
Here we go.
Now, whose was that, Lauren?
It was mine.
Okay, how did you phrase it?
Okay, so hear me out. Pro-life politics are really just pro-controlling women's bodies. Let's be real. You guys don't really care about babies that much. If you did, we would want to fund childcare. We would want to give them food. We took that away. You guys remember that?
We funded a lot of Somali childcare.
Donald Trump
Somali
cut-
food.
There we go.
I don't
Wow.
know, it didn't work
Donald
out.
Trump
Nice
cut
pivot.
SNAP benefits, Medicaid. He's cut ACA subsidies that just expired. I don't know how that's helping children. He's actually taking food out of children's
Okay, so
mouths.
I'm going to ask the audience a question. Name one pro-life politician that is riding for childcare.
That is what for childcare?
Riding for childcare. Ooh, I hear a lot of
Or
crickets.
how about this? One pro-life politician who fought against the cutting of SNAP benefits for not only children, but families across the country.
Yeah, I think a lot of us oppose SNAP benefits for the aforementioned Somalis and people who are
Oh, wow.
who are on fraud. Like for instance,
talking about children.
Okay,
one in 10 people in the state of Tennessee was apparently availing themselves of SNAP. We learned
Okay,
that
we're not
during the
talking about people
shutdown.
that we're talking about.
Oh no, they get an
babies.
extra
Well,
meal.
we're
How
saying
many
when
babies
we're
were?
ta-
How
but no,
many
when we're talking
babies-
about
no, no,
SNAP, we're talking
How
about
many
people.
babies were fraudulenting their SNAP benefits?
Well, the babies don't apply. It's usually
Okay,
their parents, and some of them commit
So
fraud.
then, how do the babies eat if they can't apply? How are they doing their fraudulent thing? 1 in 10 babies are doing this.
I guess my point is that SNAP is not really primarily about babies, and I think we're getting off the topic that you chose.
Which
That's
was
not true.
It was-
pro-life doesn't.
I mean, yes, it is. SNAP helps feed people, helps feed low-income families, and they can use that to buy baby formula and food for their children. Also, healthy parents are necessary to raise healthy children. You're acting like the nourishment of parents is completely divorced and unrelated to the well-being of children. Yeah, it could not be more disingenuous than that.
really care about babies, they care about controlling women's bodies. And you're telling me that babies shouldn't get SNAP benefits because 1 in 10 people have maybe fraudulented their things.
Turning fraudulented into a verb is kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. Like I know Lauren. She was doing it for the bit. I think she did a really good job rage baiting them and playing into the dumb blonde aesthetic. So great job. That's it's got to do a little bit of political theater on here. You gotta rage bait them, and it's I think she did actually a pretty good job in this episode because, and I said this a little bit. I don't want to get too off topic pretty quickly, but I think that Lauren and Adam in this episode were kind of foils of one another, where Lauren understood that Knowles is not debating this in good faith. This is not a good faith debate with an interlocutor who's trying to get to the truth of the matter. These are people performing for their relative audiences or their respective audiences. And Lauren played into that. She's not going to have a good faith conversation with someone who's chronically in bad faith like Michael Knowles. Adam was too much in good faith. Like, he was chronically good faith through a lot of this. I have nothing but respect for Adam. I think he's great. I think he's a great debater. But sometimes I just think he's too good faith in his approach, and he won't engage in the tactics enough. Sometimes he does, and when he does, that's the best part. But I as much as I don't want to get off this too much. I'll talk about this a bit later. But I do actually think Lauren actually did a pretty good job in this episode, despite I'm sure her rage baiting every single conservative in that bar, which is great.
As a rule, like, babies cannot apply for SNAP benefits. They are not eligible for SNAP
and they
benefits.
shouldn't, because we don't care about babies.
We all agree with that.
We don't care about babies in here.
I mean, I just want to narrow in on your point because I want you to make the argument for it. The point, as I see it here, is pro-life politics functions as control over women's bodies, not about babies.
Correct.
And I don't think the first part I don't totally disagree with, in the sense that.
So I win.
Well, I mean, you make something of a point in the sense that vaccine policy or seatbelt laws also function as control over people's bodies.
I disagree. I think vaccine laws function as a public safety requirement.
Yeah, public health.
For the
classification.
This is my point.
Well, for the greater good of public health, but I think when it comes to abortion, it is just restricting women. And who's making the laws? It's disproportionately going to be men making the laws that women can't get access to.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let me just make my analogy, and you tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The vaccine policy certainly functions to control people's bodies, especially if there's a mandate.
That's not the primary function.
Okay.
Wait for it. We'll get to it.
I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and then I'm going to...
Seatbelt laws function to control people's bodies.
No.
They do. You have to lock it in or you could get a ticket.
Are we really here to talk about seatbelt laws?
I agree with you, Adam.
Yeah.
That's not what they're for. That's not their chief objective. And it is the case that abortion laws, like not letting people have abortions, does control women's bodies to some degree.
I won.
But what it's for is saving babies. It's not about the control.
Okay, but what's the difference between a baby and a fetus? Have you ever spit in your hand?
No.
That's what a fetus looks like at like 6 weeks old. Yeah,
that's not what a fetus looks like.
It's true. It is kind of what it looks like.
Okay,
it's a bad argument,
but
we're not about good faith.
Lauren,
in Tennessee.
I have 3 kids. I've gotten ultrasounds at 8 weeks old. You don't do them so much at 6. They don't look like you spit in the hand. You can make out all their little parts. You can even figure out if they're boys or girls at 8 weeks.
No, you can't.
And you can't do that with your spit.
8
Can I
weeks?
ask you, when do you
I mean,
think
you could do a
life
chromosomal
begins?
test. Oh, why are you
well, by
bringing this up?
definition, at conception.
You think so? So how do you define life?
This is a terrible thing. Why is
a human life?
Like,
or just
why is Adam trying to get into a good faith debate with Michael about when life begins? That is, you are at a bar fight. You have 7 minutes to discuss this topic, and you decide to bring up the question of when does life begin? At least Lauren's throwing in the zingers. At least Lauren's like, y'all don't give a shit about babies. Y'all just cut SNAP benefits for millions of Americans. You don't care in the slightest about babies. ICE just tear gassed a baby. Like, this is not, you can't ask, when does life begin? Ugh, I'm sorry. I once again, I love Adam, but that's a question you ask to someone who you're having a good faith philosophical debate where both of you are, wanting to get to the bottom or journeying to the truth. I can't speak right now. I don't know why. That's what you do. That's when you ask that question. You don't ask, when does life begin? On a bar fight with hostile interlocutors when no one in the audience agrees with you, to someone like Michael Knowles who has his prepared responses that strip all the nuance out of topics and make it seem as if like it's super simple to understand. So I don't know.
Life generally.
No, life from a human. What qualities do you use to define life?
Life is described by various attributes. So growth, metabolism, organic matter, movement. And so we see these qualities and the potential for these qualities at the beginning. So, for instance...
That was kind of sneaky, though. You see what he did? We see the qualities and the potential for those qualities. Which one is it, Michael? Which one determines whether it's life or whether it's valuable? Is it the qualities themselves or the potentials for those qualities? He sneaks in both of them. So he gets to have both of them as his criterion. It can't be both the qualities and the potential. It's either the potential or the qualities, because you don't need the qualities if the potential is doing the work. And if the potential is not doing the work, then all that matters are the qualities. So, it's sneaky right there.
For a fetus, they can.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm gonna cut you guys
Fetus
off for a
just
second.
means offspring.
Why are we riding so hard for like a fictional fetus versus?
I don't care
I'm
about
gonna
fictional
finish. I
fetuses.
let you finish. I'm gonna finish now. A fictional fetus versus real life human babies and SNAP benefits and childcare and healthcare and taking care of the babies we actually have.
Yeah, so I guess my point, my very narrow point on abortion is I think you're partially right. Abortion laws do involve controlling women's bodies because we say you can't kill the kid. But,
Fetus.
well, what does fetus mean?
It's a
Offspring.
What does
fetus.
fetus mean in Latin? It means a little human being. I hope you guys got that reference. Charlie Kirk reference. May he rest in peace.
It's a
offspring,
baby once
yeah.
it's alive
It's a lot. Well,
by science,
it's
which
a-
you love.
so the word fetus just means offspring.
Continue,
So
you got a
there's
point,
no
though.
distinction, right?
Oh.
There's
No, it means a
distinction
little
between that and
human
baby in
being.
as much as it's a human.
You had a point a second ago. You-
Yes. So the very narrow point on abortion that I'm making, and I'm open to all sorts of talk on welfare programs and all that. That's fine. I'm not some
Mhm.
Okay,
like
we love
libertarian
that.
extremist. However, my only point is it would seem to me that we should not kill innocent babies in the womb or out of the womb. That's
Okay.
my whole point.
Okay, yes. I'm not for killing babies outside of the womb. I'm for feeding them and providing the kids with access
So
to
then you agree
healthcare.
we shouldn't kill them, we should not have abortion, and we should have welfare later
I
on.
Here's what I'll agree. Okay,
Okay, that's fine.
here's
Yeah.
here's what I'll agree on. You don't want an abortion, which you don't seem to be able to have the ability to have a baby yourself. You don't have to get one. Your partner, your wife, doesn't want an abortion. She doesn't have to get one. So therefore, choice. Can we agree on
Yeah,
that?
okay. So I think, for instance,
No.
look, I'm not going to engage in an honor killing of my wife if she apostatizes
That's when he
from
talks
Islam,
about
for
Muslim.
instance.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to do that. And look, if a Muslim immigrant to America, as many have done actually, wants to kill his wife in an honor killing because she has apostatized from Islam, that's his business, right? And it's not your business, and stop sticking your nose in it, right? Or no?
I think that a lot of liberals.
Here, I don't know how we got from abortion care to
Because you're saying
your
that one.
fixation with Muslims, but
Yeah, this is it's a bad argument from Lauren in its objective sense. If you don't like abortion, don't have one. Like, what is it? It's an argument that technically begs the question because you're assuming the premise that you're arguing, which is that abortion does not in fact kill an innocent human being equally valuable to you and me, or that it is not murder, or that it is justified. So the point Michael's trying to make is a fine one. Once again, of course, he has to throw in his little Islam dig because he has to be a racist in the process. But in a vacuum, as someone who has a philosophy degree and has studied bioethics very extensively, having that degree sometimes makes things that Lauren say make my gears grind in a philosophical sense. But once again, this is not a good faith interlocutors forum. Okay, it's not. We're not. This is not designed to get at the truth of the matter. This is designed for each side to score their cheap political points. Is what it's for. So, just very simply speaking, not a great argument, but rhetorically, I guess if you're going to post the clip and also draw out the racism of Michael Knowles because he can't resist making an analogy without also being racist, then yes, that's fine. So, I don't know, then call him out. I don't know why you're talking about Muslims now, Michael. It's a good point because you're latching on to the fact that he chose. He could have just been like, yeah, if you don't want to kill your wife, then don't kill your wife. Why tell me what to do with my body? You know what I mean? So like he could have said that, but he didn't. He had to get his dig against Islam. So focus on the bad rhetorical strategies or poisoning the well that he's doing instead of trying to engage in good faith. So I can say that, yeah, that's probably not a great argument by Lauren, but I can also say that Michael took it as an opportunity to rail against Islam out of fucking nowhere, mind you. And I'm not like a defender of Islam. Okay, I'm not a fan of it. Okay, I'm not a fan of organized religion generally, and I'm not going to defend radical Islam, but I'm also not going to say that it's vastly and drastically worse than the radical Christianity that materializes itself in things like the Proud Boys or the Ku Klux Klan. Yes, those are radical Christian fundamentalist nationalist organizations that engage in very similar types of things. They say they want white Sharia because they align a lot with the caricature and picture of Sharia law that we think of, the repressive views of women. So not a defender of Islam here, not a defender of, I'll obviously defend people's right to practice their religion, and we should not discriminate against people merely for adhering to a religion that they choose. If we did that, we should discriminate against all religions and Abrahamic religions specifically equally, as they all have pretty terrible tenets of their books that adherents would like to pretend don't exist. But regardless, that's kind of getting on a tangent here, but that's my main point here. Lauren is not engaging in good faith, and neither is Michael. And Adam is engaging a bit in too much in good faith, and I think that you'll see that clash turn up here a little bit.
We got there pretty quickly.
No, you're
so
saying
I'm going to
that
bring it back to children and babies. And what I'm saying, my
I can
whole
explain
point,
to you the analogy if you like.
it's not relevant to this conversation, and I don't need an explanation.
I think it is.
No, it's not, because you guys are like, yeehaw, for like not feeding babies, but you want to control women's bodies. Why is that? Why is that? Anyone want to come to the little mic?
I have personally fed 3 babies in my life. All right, that's not
Great.
bad. Yeah.
So,
and I only have 5 kids. So no, I'm kidding. I only have 2 kids.
so listen, you don't want an abortion? Don't get one.
But
Don't
okay,
get one.
you don't want to murder your wife. Don't murder your wife. But surely you would
That's the point.
outlaw murder as
Is
a
my
matter of the law.
wife, which I don't have, in my fetus?
Your wife, I don't think, is in your fetus.
Correct. So
What? It's
therefore,
my
I'm
wife.
right again.
No, I think the argument a lot of
My
liberals
wife
would make
and my-
is that killing
Who's that?
a person
Who's that? Yeah, I asked a question after my debate, so here we go.
is not the same as aborting a baby because the baby is not conscious life yet. So the
Okay, well,
no,
that's
no,
a good
the-
point.
No, no,
Now-
no. The main argument that usually happens here is trying to define when life begins,
No,
and a
it
lot of
doesn't.
conservatives say at conception. But there are studies showing that consciousness starts at about 20 to 24 weeks.
So hold on, Adam makes a
Oh,
great
sorry.
point. I just want to push it one more so you can finish your argument. If your argument then would seem to be that being killed or not being killed, having those legal protections, is predicated on consciousness. So my question is, do you have the right to go into a hospital ward and kill somebody who's in a coma?
It's based
Are they
on.
never gonna wake up?
No, I don't think so.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, we agree.
Do they possess the relevant cortical structures in order to deploy a conscious experience? It's kind of relevant there. Whether or not they are aware of their own existence. Have they had a past? Have they had past consciousness? Have they existed in some capacity? Of course, these are all gray areas and marks, and that's why I don't really like to make personhood arguments when I talk about abortion. I don't really think it's as relevant to a bodily autonomy type argument that talks about the rights we all have over our own bodies. But, I think there's an argument to be made. It just gets murky a lot quicker, and hence why I would never make a personhood or consciousness argument in a bar fight format. I don't know. All right, let's hear what this crazy guy has to ask a question. Republican coded dude. Here we go.
Now we have questions from the audience.
How's it going, Michael? Big fan.
Wait a second.
Yeah, I want to explain that a little bit. Obviously, I said big fan. The reason was because I just spent the previous hour debating Michael pretty ferociously. You'll see the episode. I was really giving it to him. So it's banter. You're in a bar, okay? Like, I don't know. Obviously I'm not a fan of Michael Knowles. Knows I'm not a fan of Michael Knowles. I think you can still definitely not be a fan of someone and vehemently disagree with a lot of their ideas and still crack a little joke in a bar. So, I don't know, I'm just preempting some comment that's going to be like, oh, he's playing all coy and nice with fascist. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I should have been meaner to them and that would have changed anything instead of just still asking him a very hard question, as you'll see in a second. And I have some thoughts on this. So, we'll continue here.
That guy before.
Yeah, big fan, Michael.
Don't be
Yeah.
fooled. He looks like a Republican, but
Exactly.
don't be fooled.
I'm
That
just code
pen.
switching. If you want
I
to
did. I
donate
went
me money,
full
I promise
American
I'll put it
Republican.
towards all your charitable policies. Anyway, I have a question for you, Michael, and it's specifically regarding the topic of abortion. And if you have if you let me expand upon this line of questioning, couple questions. First one, do you think that abortion is morally comparable to something like the Holocaust, something that conservatives talk about a lot? Would you agree with that premise that abortion, in the case of Charlie Kirk, he said it was 8 times worse than the Holocaust because of the death or the amount of abortion that have occurred since Roe was legalized?
Yeah, I would
passed.
say
Do you say so?
Abortion is the kill.
I was a couple of drinks deep, I'm going to be honest. I don't drink that much, so I'm stumbling over my words quite a bit. So apologies, folks. Maybe I shouldn't have been drinking. I thought I was done for the night, but then this topic came up, and I'm like, I gotta try to get him on this. So
Killing of innocent human life
Sure.
intentionally, and the Holocaust.
also to clarify, I just realized this when I watched the video back. I say sure to acknowledge. It's like a tick I have to acknowledge, or like an acknowledgement that I have that of the other person speaking. So I'll like like I'm listening to you, but I'm not agreeing. So he's like, abortion's the killing of innocent human life, and I'm like, sure, I'm not literally agreeing with his premise. I'm just being like, okay, I understand where you're going with this. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, so he's playing right into what I'm thinking he's gonna say is kind of my sure. I might be overthinking it, but I just thought that thinking back, I'm not like, yeah, I agree, Michael, yes.
Holocaust, as all genocides, entails the killing of innocent human life.
Sure.
And so in that way, yes, they're
Okay,
comparable.
so you think they're comparable. So do you think that, for example, political violence would be justified to stop the Holocaust? Let me give you an example right here. Let's say that I exist in Nazi Germany at the time, and I see that a Nazi is going to the concentration camp, and he is going to kill or put in the Zyklon B to gas a group of Jews. I think that he would be justified, or I would be justified rather, in killing that Nazi officer on his way to work. So if you think that abortion is morally equivalent to the Holocaust, how do you feel about violence against abortion doctors? Is there anything actually wrong with that? Because these people are morally equivalent in your eyes to Nazis.
It's a very good question. I think that a political revolution under certain circumstances could be justified. St. Thomas Aquinas explains this very well.
Big fan of Aquinas. He's a big fan of Aquinas. As I bring up in my debate, you'll see he talks about Aquinas. I grill him on this, and he doesn't even reject it. Fun fact, I'm giving you a little spoiler of the episode that's going to come out. Aquinas is famous for many things. He's a very famous Catholic theologian, but he famously, or rather infamously, argued that rape is less bad or less grave of a sin than masturbation. Actually, and his reasoning behind it, which I guess makes sense in Catholic theology, it's abhorrent nonetheless, is that rape is less grave of a sin because it can still be procreative in nature. If a man vaginally rapes a woman, he's still engaging in a procreative act, even though it is violent and non-consensual. While rape, rather, it's the spilling of, masturbation, rather, is the spilling of your seed. You're using sex, or you're using your sexual organs not toward their reproductive end, and that is a more mortal sin. So he said that. I brought that up, and Michael was like, he did not immediately condemn it. He was like barely, I don't even remember if he actually condemned it. I don't even think he condemned it. I think he brought up that just like Plato said that seduction was worse than rape. And I'm like, cool. So do you agree with Plato? He's like, well, I'm like, I'm telling you, these people are pretty evil. All right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what common ground is there to be had with someone who defends the idea that like rape is worse than masturbation? Or rather masturbation is worse than rape. I wish I would have pushed him further. Like, Michael, what do you really think about this? Really? You think it's a worse sin? So you think it would be worse if after this show, I went back to my hotel room that you paid for, I should have said that, and jacked off versus rape someone? It would have been worse. In your eyes, truly, it would have been worse if I masturbated than if I raped someone. Say that. Just like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We had limited time, but I really wanted to push him on that because it's volatile and vile what these people believe. Truly, when you get down to the base of it. I don't know.
Theologian de Reño. However, I don't think that vigilante violence is justifiable in almost any case, not because of the justification of the actions that are at discussion, be it the Holocaust or mass abortion, 60 million babies being killed, but because of the downstream political effects that come from that, and because there is such a thing as a civil authority. So in the extreme case where revolution would be justified, there would still have to be order to be undertaken so that greater evils would not abound from an act that could be justified.
I understand that. But do you think that when the Holocaust happened, do you think that it would have been
more specific
wrong
here
for someone to kill a Nazi officer on his way to the concentration camp to gas a bunch of Jews? Would it have been wrong or not?
Well, in the case of the Holocaust, we're speaking specifically of war conditions. So you're in the midst of a massive war, both within Germany and
this is
throughout
such a
all
cop
of
out.
the world.
Yeah, I'd say it wasn't a war, Michael. I wish I would have expanded upon this more. This is such a cop out answer. You do realize that the entirety of the Holocaust didn't occur just during World War II. Okay, the United States declared war on Germany and Japan in 1941, which was after the Holocaust had begun. Of course, the final solution and the mass slaughter of Jews that occurred was mainly after that point. But Germany was already killing Jews. Let's say earlier in the 30s that there were concentration camps that already existed, and there were Nazis that were killing Jews. Not at war. There was not an official war. It was not wartime. It was a time of relative peace, like Michael's talking about right now, I guess, with abortion. Would it have been wrong then if someone killed a Nazi officer on their way to gas a group of Jews? It's not wartime. I mean, answer that, Michael. Would it have been? At this point, I'm just impressed that Michael acknowledges the Holocaust exists, happened, and is bad. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's take our wins where we get them. We have a conservative commentator that hasn't fully denied the Holocaust. All right. Maybe there's still time, Michael, but I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to get thrown off the Daily Wire by Ben Shapiro, so he's playing nice. I have no idea. Whatever.
With the question, if it
I am
in fact,
with the question.
if it in
So
fact
yes,
was the
I
case,
think
yes, it would be justified. My point here is rather that I don't really think that you think abortion is morally equivalent to the Holocaust, or you're not believing that it would be justified for people to kill abortion doctors.
I'm saying that different rules apply during times of war than during times of peace.
Okay, cool. So if that's actually the case, then if we weren't at war with Germany, Or there wasn't a war that was going. What about Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, when Germany was going around terrorizing Jews and throwing them into unmarked, I don't know, cars at that time? Sound familiar? Would it have been wrong for someone to stop them from doing so violently? I don't know, Michael. You tell me. You know what I mean? He's falling back on this cudgel of it was a war. It was wartime. It's a cop out answer. I wish I would have had more time to explore this.
So if the president suddenly declared it was a time of war against women who get abortions, then suddenly it's
That was a
justified
bad-
Well, you don't,
for people to go out.
Don't declare against women.
Okay,
Fuck you, Michael. Like, really, like, you know what I mean? I feel like I played into that a little bit too much. You don't declare a war against women. It's just a war against abortion providers. What if, I mean, we can say this right now. Like, what if, let's go back to Nazi Germany. Let's say Germany was divided into different states. It wasn't to a certain extent. And there were some places where it was legal to gas and kill Jews. And there were some places where it was illegal. Okay. And, the president came into office. They said that, look, we need to stop the fact that there are people who are having or rather, I'm getting my analogies mixed up. There are some places where it's legal to kill Jews. There are other places where it's not legal to kill Jews. It's really on a state-by-state basis. The court of Germany overturned a ruling that said you had a constitutional right to kill Jews. Once again, you can see the ridiculousness of the comparison of abortion to the Holocaust, but I'm engaging with it as if it's true. Because I don't think that Michael or any of these people truly think that abortion is morally equivalent to the Holocaust. They know it's not. They say it for its inflammatory or rhetorical nature, but if we actually take it seriously, it leads to some pretty drastic consequences. I don't want to talk too much more on this because I want him to get more into what he's saying so that I can expand upon this more.
Michael, very good. Against abortion, however you want to call it.
Yeah, against abortion.
You could
think
outlaw
then it would be
abortion. That wouldn't be a war,
It's
though.
outlawed.
A war is when belligerent parties fight each other for territory and for political
I think that
control.
Michael's
That wasn't. Yeah, I think I'm going to say he's evading the question. That wasn't all of the Holocaust. Okay, the Holocaust towards the end was that, but Germany was killing and persecuting Jews way before that. So is it your position, Michael Knowles, that it was only justified for people to, kill a Nazi officer once the U.S. declared war? Before then, no, it's not enough of a war to justify the violence. I'm also not talking about like a soldier. I'm just talking about like a civilian. I'm talking about you or me back in 1930s or 40s Germany. Would we have been justified in doing that? I think so. Let me know, Michael.
evading the question because his
I'm
line
not,
of
I'm
reasoning,
answering. I'm
his
trying
line,
to
his
describe
line
to you
of,
the
rea-
difference
his
between
line
war
of
and peace.
reasoning leads to the conclusion that it is actually morally permissible to commit political violence.
No,
when
I
it seems
don't
like he's
think it
against
is.
that.
I-
You
in
don't.
most-
And
in
even
most
during
circumstances,
and
I don't
Most
think it is.
most
circumstances.
circumstances.
So this is not
this
one
is
of-
not comparable to the Holocaust.
It is
because
comparable
it
to
is.
the Holocaust.
It's comparable.
It is comparable.
but
As
it's
I
different.
mentioned to you, in the respect of both of these things entailing the killing of innocent human life, it is comparable. In respect to the fact that one is in a polity during a time of peace and one is during a time of war, they're not comparable.
It's just not very.
So they're
optical.
not. They're in different respects. You would address them differently.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you can't look at that maniacal look. It's such a cop-out answer. There were times during the Holocaust that were times of relative peace. Okay, everyday life in Nazi Germany for people who were not being persecuted like Jews was very normal. It was quite peaceful until the end of the war, until the war really ramped up. Yeah, people were taken off to concentration camps and they were never to be seen again, but it wasn't, there wasn't open gunfire in the streets. It was just seen as acceptable. It was seen pretty normally, So, it was a time of relative peace. Michael wants you to think that there's some, massive difference between what everyday life was for those who, weren't being persecuted by the Nazi regime, but it's very, very similar. So if he thinks in a time of relative peace, well, it was a time of relative peace for many people in Germany. The same way it's a time of relative peace for many people in America and women who get abortions. But apparently that's genocide and that's morally comparable to the Holocaust. It's very inconsistent, and he's drawing arbitrary lines to try to get to his conclusion that, with hindsight being 2020, that it's very much politically acceptable to condone violence against Nazis, but not against women who get abortions or abortion providers, rather. It just shows the vacuousness of their comparison. So,
Great questions.
thank you, Adam.
Hey, nice to be here.
Good to see you.
I guess this question is for Lauren. Is that?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring it back a little bit to the topic, which was that abortion is really just a way to control women's bodies, not really a protection of life. Do you know of any other ways to bring life into this world besides using women's bodies?
No.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not really about controlling women's bodies then. It's about, providing a safe way for life to be brought into this world.
Okay,
It's not
so how would you define safety? Yeah, how would you just
I
find
mean-
safety for this fictional fetus? Tell me. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'll
Or-
give you.
or
I'll give
even
you.
You want a
for a real
definition of
fetus.
safety? I mean, I think a fetus is pretty safe for a baby because that's
Okay,
where
let's
it
talk about
actually
a baby.
belongs.
What is safe for a baby?
What is safe for a
Yeah.
baby?
Some wombs.
What is safe-
Not
how
you
would
said
you-
the womb. Some
The
wombs.
actual place where it,
Okay,
it
yeah, I'm
develops
still
and
waiting.
grows
I'm
and
still
actually
waiting. What is
produces
safe
life.
for a baby? What is safe for a baby?
The place where it can actually grow and to complete its
Oh no.
cycle
Babies are not
into an-
growing inside the body. Baby's out now. So you force the woman to give birth. Now what's safety for that baby?
Okay, this is a separate
No, it's
conversation
not. It's
because now we're no
exactly-
longer talking about bringing life into the world. We're talking about life after it exists in the world already.
Exactly. That's the exact topic that we're talking about. And I'll wait. What's your name?
Gregory.
Gregory, I'm going to ask you again. What's safety for a baby? It's just not that hard of a question. Do you need a couple minutes?
I mean, have you ever taken care of a baby? Have you ever
Okay, take
babysat?
care of a
Have
baby.
you
What
ever
is
done
taking
anything
care of a
like
baby,
that?
Gregory?
Making sure it's fed, making
Yeah,
sure
great.
it's
Okay,
safe.
fed.
making
What
sure-
else does a baby
Yeah.
need?
It needs a
Shelter.
safe-
Okay,
for her for
great,
taking
great,
that on her
great
terms.
answers, Gregory. And now, how does a baby get shelter if that mother is not in a position economically to provide that?
Well, that's a different conversation. We're talking about
I'm not
after
asking
a
these
life is
deadbeats over there. I'm asking Gregory.
we're talking about a different conversation, which is after
No, we're
life
not.
has been brought into this world.
So that's what I'm saying. Do
versus
we
the
care
birth
about
of
the
the
baby
baby
after
itself.
it's been caught into this world, or we only care about the baby
yes,
when it's in the woman's
absolutely,
body?
absolutely. That's a
I think
different
you're
conversation that we can
deflecting,
have
No, I think
about,
I'm directly
support
asking the
for
question. I think a
single
bunch of men
mothers
have a
or
lot of
for-
opinions on uteruses they
Okay,
don't have.
Lauren, I'll tell you what. Let's
we
say
can
we
talk
all
about-
guaranteed that there's infinite taxpayer welfare dollars for any woman who wants it, who has a baby. In that circumstance, would you support outlawing abortion?
No.
If we guarantee,
Okay,
then
so
it's
here-
not really about what you're saying.
No,
it's
so
about.
hear
Right,
me out.
exactly.
So you guys know how often a miscarriage happens? You should know. You have a bunch of kids.
yeah.
That's
One
not
in
an
4.
abortion. That's
That's
not
more
an
than that.
abortion.
It
It
actually
is
So
technically.
the medical term for abortion, yeah, okay, you guys.
Spontaneous
That's not an
abortion.
abortion.
You can
Spontaneous
live in your
abortion.
little delulu, but abortion is an umbrella term for medical care.
It's true.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope,
I can't
not
debate
even a
with
little
people
bit.
who are making up their little realities.
Okay. Let's say then.
One
let's,
has human
let's
intervention,
agree on
one
terms.
does not.
When we talk about
So-
abortion,
so
let's agree on our terms. When we talk about abortion, we're talking about the intentional ending of a pregnancy, which
But that's
some
not
call
the legal
the killing
definition of
human life.
abortion. Abortion is care for.
That's the issue we're talking about.
An abortion requires human intervention. A miscarriage
So
does not.
when you
A
1 in
miscarriage
4
is-
people experience a miscarriage when they have a baby. To complete that miscarriage, you need abortion care.
Sometimes there
So
is.
there
don't.
are
You
plenty
don't.
of women
Don't
dying
get
in
it
hospital waiting.
over.
False.
Call a hospital.
False.
Call a hospital,
False.
Gregory. Tell me what happens.
False. My sister had a miscarriage. She bore
Not
the
everyone
baby.
needs
It
one, but
died
a
in
lot of women
childbirth.
do.
It was
I
not.
think,
it
Adam,
was
you have a point.
Okay, so
Not
again-
any
I was
gonna
human
say-
intervention that caused the baby to die.
There's a lot of argumentation going on. I think one of the most contradictory things that bothers me with the conservative position on abortion is that everybody should be in favor of minimizing the amount of abortions that happen. Was it Clinton that said they should be
Why, though?
safe,
Yeah.
legal, but rare?
Now let's check in. Do you agree we should minimize the number of
Yeah,
abortions?
safe, legal, and rare.
I do not give a single f- what other people do with their bodies. It's not my
See,
business.
she doesn't
Okay,
agree
well-
with that. She doesn't agree with
No,
that.
I
Okay,
don't.
Well, Knowles does.
My
He likes
position
to.
is, along with many Democrats in the party, that they should be safe, legal, but rare. That's
Why
what
should
the
they be
former
rare, though?
Democratic president said.
But the current Democrats shout their abortion, right?
No,
They say
we-
there's no reason to minimize abortion.
Wait,
Planned Parenthood posted an
Democrats
ad.
in power?
Say it
Hold
again.
on,
What
no.
Democrats
This
in
is
power have said that?
this is the bad argument to have. Yes, I want abortions to be rare, or I want to lessen the amount of abortion. It's not because I think abortion is a grave moral evil akin to the Holocaust and a genocide, and it needs to be limited, or it's really something bad. No, abortion should be lessened, or we should limit the number of abortions, or try to lower the number of abortions rather, because it's not good for people to be pregnant when they don't want to be pregnant. That's why we should lessen or limit the amount of unwanted pregnancies. And you know what the 2 things that lead to lowering the abortion rate factually? Widespread access to contraception and comprehensive sex education. Factually the case. 2 things that conservatives are famously against. So if you want to lower the abortion rate, we'll tell you how to do it. And it's been done. And it happens in all those evil blue states with comprehensive sex education and widespread access to contraception. So if you want to lessen the abortion rate, to lower the abortion rate like you claim about so much, we got solutions. Oh, but you don't want to do that. That's what the problem is here. And then Adam accepts the bait of like, not real Democrats are saying shout their abortion. Some women are. You know why? Because when we live in a country that is trying to strip women of their bodily autonomy and their ability to have an abortion, resistance in the face of that suppression and oppression is something you should celebrate. So women wouldn't be really celebrating their abortion if there weren't people who were trying to actively strip them of that right. Okay, abortion, yeah, abortion's not fun. Like any other medical procedure, no one wants to be pregnant when they don't want to be. Of course, women have long, hard, and difficult conversations and with, those in their lives, and it's a very complicated process, which is exactly the reason why the government should not be involved in that decision, and it should be a conversation between a woman, her family, her loved ones, and her doctor, but not the government. But that's why. That's why there's the Shout Abortion campaign. It's not because people love abortion. It's that people love having freedom over their own bodies. And you'll be fucking damned if we let a bunch of motherfuckers like Michael Knowles take away that right. So we'll rub it in your face because you fucking hate it. And when you stop obsessing yourselves over taking away the rights of other people because you don't really care about actual babies like Lauren's talking about, then we'll stop talking about shouting the abortion. Because abortion, like other medical procedures, is something that should be available to people because no one should be required to use their body against their will, even to sustain the life of another human being or person. So that's simple. So, I don't know.
Democrats in power want
Bill
to be
Clinton
safe.
was president in the 90s, man.
But-
That was a long
We're
time
not
ago.
talking about Bill Clinton, Mr.
I think-
Epstein files.
I agree.
Can I
Look,
say really quickly? But
yeah,
the
finish it.
problem is, in order to minimize the amount of abortions that happen, you should have proper sex
Thank you.
education at young
Yes.
ages. Now, in the
Correct.
state that I grew up in, Indiana, there was actually a slashing of sex education at really normal ages. Like when you're in 7th grade or 8th grade, you can be learning about this stuff. And when there's a lack of sex education, you have more teen pregnancies. You have
Correct.
more women that get
Correct.
that get
By the
pregnant.
numbers.
So I think these are kind of contradictory positions beyond like when life starts. I just,
Okay, so we have the moderate Democrat position. We want fewer
contradictory.
abortions, and we want all this other
But I
stuff.
want them to be
And
safe.
then we have the
Yeah,
woman's perspective on the women's bodies. What a concept.
One last point before we move on.
Yeah.
Just this question, Lauren. You say that the people who want to end abortion, they only want to control women's bodies. They don't care about babies at all. If I look you in the face right now,
Yeah,
I
please.
tell you I'm someone who wants to end abortion. And I'm telling you, I promise you, my hand to God, I care about abortion because I don't want babies to be killed.
Yeah,
and I
sure.
don't really care about controlling women's bodies. That is not in any way the primary objective. I just want fewer babies to be killed. Do you believe me?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay, all right.
She
I
rejects
can't
the
con- all
framing
right.
that it's killing babies.
Because
of
if
course.
you
she doesn't.
don't, if
She
you
didn't.
don't want an
You might.
abortion, don't get one.
Yeah.
I'm not in your bathroom following you around. I
You
don't
don't want a baby, don't
don't
have
think
sex.
about any of you guys
Okay,
having sex.
look,
so
I tried.
don't-
Okay, so who won that round? Was it Team Libs? Whether moderate lib Adam or less moderate lib Lauren? Was it the Libs?
That was me over there. I'm in the
no,
corner. You
was
see that?
it the me?
Can I
Look
can
at
I zoom in
Gregory.
on me here? One sec. That's me in the corner over there. In case you were wondering,
The Libs.
that's me right there.
No, was it the me?
Look at Gregory's.
All right, there we go. Okay, all right.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, it's ambiguous. I can't tell.
I
Okay,
wish I was
more
that
important
delusional.
question. Who won the round of questions? We say, are we hearing Gregory? Who was
Poor
it? Who-
Gregory.
Oliver.
Gregory's going
Oh,
along
thanks,
with
Adam.
his
Was
lotion
it-
in his bottle.
What? Who won? All right.
Was it the guy dressed like a Republican or was it Gregory?
Gregory, you're going to the VIP table, man.
I
Here we
didn't want
go.
to go. I was sitting with my other friends.
Enjoy.
Okay, now you're going to get that delicious Redneck Riviera whiskey. And you know what that goes really well with?
Here we go.
Delicious Z-Biotics.
Oh, my
Folks,
God.
you need to
All
go to
right.
zbiotics.com/barfight. Let's face it. After a night
Oh
with
my God.
drinks,
All
I
right.
don't.
I was debating on my episode like how much I could fuck up his ad. Like, you know what I mean? I want to get invited back on, so I didn't want to fuck up his ad. What if I'm like, yeah, it's true. Everyone on January 6th was on those. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if that would have fucked it up. Yeah, I took one of those and I had so much premarital sex. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of funny. It just randomly just goes into an ad read. All right, let's skip through this. Okay, keep going. I'll maybe cut this. Hold on. What's the timestamp here? I don't need to cut it. Whatever, guys. I'm not cutting. Let's keep going. Keep going.
Ever. Subscriptions
here we go.
are
I'm
also
just gonna
available for
skip.
maximum conconsistency. Remember to head to zbiotics.
Okay, keep going, Michael.
You gonna have one?
No,
No,
I'm
all right, I'll have one. That's
Here
fine.
we go.
Okay, it's round 2.
There are 3 more commercial breaks coming, by the way. Multiple more commercial breaks.
All right,
Take
now
it
we
off.
pick the next topic. You've heard them all. I'll just do a quick one again. Trump is not at all corrupt. The ICE agent in Minneapolis did nothing wrong. It's going to be that one. Okay, that's my topic. I say the ICE agent in Minneapolis did nothing wrong. And thank you. Here's my argument for this.
Here we go.
It's a pretty simple argument. The ICE agent was there to carry out federal law in total accord with the law. and he was following all of his instructions and all of his training.
I'm sure.
And he saw that there was an SUV parked in the middle of the street.
Was not
obstructing law.
False. Was not. Multiple cars were being waved by before then. They could have driven literally right through there. Not obstructing. Nope. Cars were passing by. First lie. We should do a lie counter. First lie. Number one, I'm going to make a counter of how many lies Michael makes just in this segment because it was truly astounding. All right, first, we got one lie here. I'm keeping track. Here we go. I scribbled my pen so that there was more ink, but my counter is here. Nah, whatever. I don't know. All right, one lie. We're going with one. I'll make the tallies bigger.
Enforcement. At that time, he might not have known, but it was being driven by someone who trained to obstruct law enforcement in this operation.
No.
And so they went up there to try to get her to move, and she didn't want to move. She was there for quite a while. And then the lady hit him with her car.
Nope.
And so when you...
Lie. First lie.
And she literally did that. So
She was dead.
We now know, though there was a lot of confusion at the time, that the agent was in front of the car. We can slow down the footage and look at the tires. We can see that the woman accelerated while her tires were aimed at the agent. We know that when the agent fired his weapon, he fired it through the front windshield, which means he couldn't have been on the side.
Lie second. Sorry, I'm driving my notes here, but that's an absurd lie. He fired it through the front window. He couldn't have been to the side. I'm going to fire my finger gun at the camera, and I'm not going to be in front of the camera. You want to see this? Whoa! Look at that! Look how long my arm is compared to where I'm shooting the camera. Am I in front of the camera right now? The answer is no. I'm not. He was literally, you can watch the video, he was reaching around the front of the car. And it is true that the front of the car did slightly graze him. Okay, that's true. It's because he decided instead of getting out of the way of the car, he would take his time to shoot her. That's why the second and third shot went through the passenger side window. And of course, the whole lying campaign of how he had internal bleeding and he thought he might not make it when he literally walked away from the scene. It's fucking insane, ludicrous. But another lie.
Hit him with the car because of footage from him, body cams, best thing for law enforcement ever.
Why do they keep turning them off then?
We also know that he suffered internal bleeding
He
as
didn't.
a result
Lie.
of that. So
Lie.
in that case,
Lies.
Adam might not believe it, but it has
Maybe
believe it.
No,
it was
it
a
didn't.
period.
You at
It was
least
probably
believe
a
that she
period
hit him.
abortion or something.
No, I don't
It's
think
on
that she
video.
hit him.
What are you talking
Okay,
about?
you understand what I saw in this video?
Yes.
My
Which
problem-
video?
I mean, there's multiple angles, but very quickly you realize internal bleeding could just be bruising. But if we're going to follow this administration,
Yeah.
what they're saying, it can be. If we're going to follow this administration's, like what they're saying, do you agree when Donald Trump said that he was viciously hit and he's surprised that the guy's alive? Did you see that on the video? Surprised he's alive?
I'm surprised that.
Wait. Do you agree with
No,
Trump?
come
Do you
on.
agree with Trump when he says this guy was viciously hit and he said basically like I'm surprised this guy's alive
Yeah,
in the hospital?
had-
You're
had-
surprised he's alive?
Yeah, because had the tires not spun out
Wait,
because
wait,
of the icy roads in
That's
Minneapolis,
such coke.
she would have
Wait,
hit him.
Are you guys surprised?
she would've hit him
Are you
Not
guys
true.
surprised he's alive? Come on.
Hold on. This is actually ridiculous for Michael to say this. One sec. I'm going to go back to his face in case I want to clip it. I'm thinking like that. I gotta post clips. Michael, you believe that in fact he was viciously attacked because in the counterfactual scenario where it wasn't icy, she would have hit him. He was viciously attacked and injured because in a parallel universe where the conditions were different, he would have been more injured. What? So we're just talking in, oh my God, someone tried to murder them. Why? Well, if they had a gun in their hand instead of a candy bar, they would have died. Like what? It genuinely just insanity. Like in a different situation, it would have been a vicious attack. But considering the facts weren't this way, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a car. Like what? Ugh.
Surprised he's alive?
Yeah, because had the tires not spun out because of the icy roads in
That's
Minneapolis,
such coke.
she would have hit him.
Are you guys surprised?
she would've hit him
Are you
harder
guys
than that.
surprised he's alive?
Yeah.
Come on. You guys are all coping. Yeah,
What
okay,
video
thank you. You're not
guys are-
surprised he's
what
alive.
AI slap are you watching?
Here's my problem. You guys are quite literally taking an 80-20 position on this, and you guys are the 20. Americans were polled on the justification of this killing, and 28% of Americans, only 28% thought it was justified, almost 60% thought it was unjustified.
Because they've been lied to about what happened. Do
No,
you
I'm
agree
sure.
that she
lied
hit him?
to?
Yes.
They've seen
By-
videos.
including by you.
No,
Do
they've
you
seen
agree
Let's
that
talk
she
about
hit
this.
him?
I mean,
One second.
she-
I want to go back to this. This was something I was preparing for with my debate with Michael in case this got brought up. It intentionally didn't get brought up because this episode came out first, so it was more timely, so they wanted to discuss it. But I want to read to you a quote that I wrote down on my notepad that I wanted to read to Michael if I had time, but the topic didn't get brought up. So I'm going to read you a quote, and I want you to guess what it's about. Not really guess. I'll just tell you right now. It's about Renee Good and about what happened here. So I'm just going to read it right here. If you lie, generally, you should be ashamed of yourself because you're committing a mortal sin. If you lie about an event of public interest, you should especially be ashamed about yourself because it causes political scandal. But if you lie about this kind of an issue, you should triply be ashamed of yourself because you are setting the stage for naive and ignorant people to put themselves in harm's way for your lie. And that's what happened. That's what Michael mentioned on his show on January 9th, a couple days after Renee Good was shot. It's shocking because in a vacuum, if you think about that quote, I wanted to say this to Michael, I can't think of a more apt description of what happened on January 6th and Donald Trump. Especially, you're setting the stage for naive and ignorant people to put themselves in harm's way for your lie. Like, how do you not see the irony of that? Saying that about that this is what happened when, of course, they're gaslighting us to think we're the liars when Donald Trump is the blatant liar in that situation and on January 6th. The amount of people who followed Donald Trump's lie to commit, to attack the Capitol, many of which were thrown in jail, justifiably so, for committing domestic terrorism. And Donald Trump was responsible for that, for his words and actions. But of course, Donald Trump, can't be responsible for that. It's just, it's definitely not. That it's all of us who are saying, yeah, ICE just murdered someone. That's definitely what's going on here. I think it's insane that the reason I know that is because I was listening to a couple episodes of the Michael Knowles show before I went on Bar Fight, and it was wild, genuinely wild.
Did she hit him?
To? They've seen
videos,
videos,
including by you.
No,
Do you agree that she hit him?
I mean, she
Grazed him.
touched him.
Did she
Touched
hit
him.
him with her car?
And the
No.
same way
Yes
that
or
I
no?
hit people driving out of the Walmart parking lot. He's standing
You
right
hit
there.
you hit
What?
pedestrians with your
No,
car.
I
That's
don't.
a
You should
wild
go
thing to
jail
say.
He
too, buddy.
walked off. He
Are you
walked
kidding
off.
me?
That
We're
doesn't,
not
I don't know,
talking
what,
about going to
what
jail.
was
We're
Adam even talking about there? The same way I hit people with my car walking out. I don't know, Adam. I'm look, he didn't really, he was in front of her car. She turned. He got grazed and moved over and then shot her 3 times, once through the windshield while he was off to the side, and then through the passenger window. But I don't know.
Talking about shooting her in the head 4 times and then calling her a bitch. There's a difference.
Here- no,
He got her the first
She had a
time. I don't.
Honda.
The
She had a
last
Honda.
two
He
shots
had
Let me
a-
back
don't
up.
matter.
he
Let
was-
me back up.
They don't
The
matter. Why do you
general
shoot her then?
population does not agree with you, and let me finish here.
Because they've been lied to.
No, the general population does not agree with you because they saw the videos that happened. This administration, before the investigation started, said that she was a domestic terrorist and said that the guy was lucky to
Yeah,
be
I don't
alive.
think she was a domestic
Before the
terrorist.
Okay, so
we'll talk
Donald
about that in
Trump
one second. Do you think it's
bad.
responsible for them to say that before the investigation started? Trump said it, I think, 90 minutes after. Kristi Noem, 45 minutes after, said she was a domestic terrorist. Do you disagree with Kristi Noem?
I think that when you hit law enforcement
Wait,
with
do you
your
agree
car,
or disagree
yes
with
or
Kristi
no?
Noem? Is she a domestic terrorist?
I agree that she was aiding and abetting domestic terrorism.
So
But
she's
I
not a
wouldn't call her.
domestic terrorist.
I wouldn't use that term.
Okay, so thank you. You just said that I'm lying to the American people, but you seem to be conceding that Kristi Noem and Donald Trump both lied to the American people.
No,
I'll-
I say I don't agree with
Wait,
their
so-
wording of that, and yet what I'm saying is the facts as they describe them happened. You're
No.
denying the facts that are on video.
Can I tell you what I saw? I
Yes.
saw a woman in a car who was waving people past. And listen, I'm a moderate Democrat.
She was
She was.
waving him
She-
past.
No, not him, but cars. She was waving multiple cars past. If you guys haven't seen the videos, that's your fault. Did you not see her waving?
You're
They're
not
all
allowed
online.
to block traffic.
She
Did you not
wasn't.
see her
Specifically
waving?
law
Wait, is that a
enforcement.
death sentence?
If you
I
hit
thought
a
you
cop
were-
with a car, yes, that's
No,
a
let's
death sentence.
pivot.
You're gonna
wait,
get shot,
Is- no.
and you're going to
I have a
deserve it.
question. If she was going to hit someone with her car,
Why would she
did she
reverse?
first reverse, then stop, then spin her wheel? Every
She
time
didn't spin the wheel first.
She did
She
spin the wheel.
accelerated
Wait,
before
why
she
did
spun the wheel.
If you want to hit
It's on
someone with your
video.
car, why would you reverse? Why would you reverse?
She clearly was
Wait,
a
why'd
very
you
confused
reverse?
woman.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. Why
Okay.
did she hit him?
So I want to
Wait,
ask.
no, you don't know why she reversed because she spun the wheel
She didn't.
and then
She
tried to
didn't.
drive off.
She accelerated before she turned the wheel.
Here's what
it's on video.
Here's
Adam.
what self-defense counts as.
That's why
Self-
he shot through the windshield because he was obviously in front
you
of the
can
car.
reach over the windshield. What about the second
He
two
reached
shots?
over the windshield. He had spaghetti
reached
arms that
over.
reached over in the moment
Has
He did.
just to
nobody here
frame this innocent
Wait,
woman.
did he even get
Give
knocked
me a
over?
break.
Did he even get knocked over?
Yes,
No.
he did.
No,
That's
wait,
on video
was
too.
he, was he
No,
on
it's
the
not.
ground after? Or was
Yes.
he, no,
Wait.
he was.
Yeah.
He was
Yes.
standing the up. He was
No,
standing up.
there's literally video
Dude, he was
going
walking.
down.
Okay, I'm
He
gonna
then
debunk
walked
this
over.
after.
Yes, then
so
he
you're
then walked
saying
over.
when Renee Nicole Good hit him, he got knocked on the ground.
Yes.
So you
Okay,
haven't seen
so
the
why
video.
isn't there
you
any
haven't
video
seen
of
the
that?
video. Wait. Did
You
he
haven't
get knocked
posted
on
it?
the ground?
He didn't.
No.
Yeah.
No, he did not.
He
Thank
didn't
you,
stand
whoever's
there.
seen the video back
Guys,
there.
what do
He's
you-
still standing.
He gets knocked
You guys are all
aside.
lying because you've been
No.
gaslit by this administration to think that ICE can do nothing wrong. Over the past
Adam,
year,
Adam, hold on.
listen. Over the past year, over the past year, we have seen clips of ICE cracking the ribs of 79-year-olds, grabbing U.S. citizens and bringing them to the ground, deporting people with no due process, and having to bring them back because they admitted there was no due process. That happened, right? They had to bring.
Are we talking about? We're talking about the January 6thers? Or are we talking about those
Oh,
Midwest
now he's
rallies
irrelevant.
that
Domestic
cracked by the
terrorists.
U.S. Marshals?
No, if you want to talk about domestic terrorists,
Okay,
wait,
got it.
they're using political force to stop the certification of election. They're actual domestic terrorists.
Oh,
you
no.
want to call a 37-year-old mother who was shot in the side window a domestic terrorist?
She wasn't shot in the side window.
She
Adam,
was.
The bullet is through the windshield.
And then
You're
2
just
more.
making that
There's
up.
3 of them.
You were making up that he was knocked over, and you
I'm
can't
not.
respond to why
Adam,
she
Adam,
reversed.
Adam.
Why did she reverse?
Adam, it's a simple question. Did she hit him with her car or not?
She didn't.
Did she hit him with her car or
No.
not? Yes or
And
no?
I-
Listen,
You're wrong. You answer. Yes,
Yes,
or no?
because you
Okay,
got-
Adam, yes or no? It's a simple
can
question.
I give a legit answer?
You can give me
Yes.
one word answer.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait,
There you
can
go.
Can I
Then
answer?
the
Just you have to
entire
answer. You just have to
Wait,
start
can I
talking. You just
answer
have to
I
start
wanna bring
talking.
it
You
back
can't
to-
let
Hold
him
on,
frame
hold on,
this.
let me
She
hop
hit. Tell me why he should not have defended himself when she hit
Because
him
he got in
with
front of his
her
car.
as you admit.
You cannot put yourself in perilous conditions and create the dangerous conditions yourself and then claim self-defense. This is very simple case law. This is renowned. If you put yourself in a dangerous situation, if you cause the danger, you can't then claim self-defense. You can't. It's true. And every single bit of law enforcement training says that you should not put yourself in front of someone's car. He actively moved in front of your car, and you're also not allowed to shoot a fleeing suspect. He was getting out of the way of her car when he shot. He didn't need to. He could have kept going.
Self-defense means there need to be 2 requirements by the law. You need to be able to reasonably perceive yourself as
An
in
imminent
imminent
risk,
danger,
yes.
and then you need to be able to use a disproportionate amount of force to take care of that
Proportionate.
danger. It's the continuum use of force. Use of force continuum.
Okay. I want to bring it back
You have
to
to
your.
use a proportionate amount of force, right? You have to use a It was not
A
proportionate.
3,000-pound SUV is a deadly
I want to
threat.
bring it back to your
Yes,
original
He
Lauren.
was standing up. You guys are lying.
You said in your original opening, you said that he was doing his job as instructed. Okay, right? Okay, so with his instructions, surely there's some other type of escalation steps in that process before shooting her in the face 4 times and calling her a bitch.
No,
No?
Lauren.
No?
It's
Wow.
a split second before she's running him over. It's not like
She didn't
it's not like
run
she
him
was a
over.
mile
So there
down the road.
So he had a Honda.
no,
he
she
was
didn't
armed
because he
and-
shot her in the face.
She didn't
No.
because she turned her
Okay.
wheel in reverse. Why would she? Okay, I have one final question. And
Yes.
then I
Then it's
really
my
want you
turn.
to answer this. That
Yes.
you continue to kind of weave around it. Why did she reverse her car if she
Before
was trying to
driving
hit him?
straight into
She
him.
didn't drive
I don't know.
straight
She was a
into him.
real confused
She did
lady,
not- she
and I'm
did not-
really sorry she got killed, and she shouldn't have done
How
it
did
to
it work out
herself.
at Nuremberg? How did it work out in Nuremberg when they were following instructions? How-
Nuremberg?
Yes.
That's kind of out of nowhere, Lauren, but you're not
You
wrong.
can't just execute moms. You guys are a little weird if you think you can just execute people.
Huh? Okay. Okay.
What
Do we
was
have
it
questions?
then?
Do we have questions?
Yeah.
Babe.
Michael, I consider myself a conservative. I'm in favor of rigorous enforcement of our immigration laws. But I want to ask you a question about tactics.
Yes.
Okay. So even setting aside, I think there are legitimate legal issues here that we could ask about, Fourth Amendment issues, et cetera. But I just want to ask you, let's assume that sort of the public backlash to what's going on right now with ICE, stopping people in the street, pulling them out of the cars, going to door, is sufficient to cause some sort of landslide in the midterms against the Republicans. Let's assume that that leads to Donald Trump getting impeached. Let's assume that
Again.
that leads to maybe by the end of the Trump term, deporting fewer people than we saw under Obama. Would you not admit that maybe tactically mistakes have been made, that this is bad optically at the very least, even if you dismiss
He
the
doesn't give
legal
a shit
issues?
about that.
Yeah, I don't think so because I don't know what the alternative is.
Well-
You know what the people voted for is now.
I don't know what the alternative is other than ripping 78-year-olds out of their car and cracking their ribs and deporting people with no due process and literally flinging around U.S. citizens from detention center to detention center before they just barely avoid deportation. Oh, my God.
Deportations. What we've gotten so far, the Obama numbers are
Executions.
in.
Did they vote for that?
The Obama. Well, when people are trying to run over cops, I voted for that.
Okay, so
but
then I thought you
when-
have due
when-
process, no?
But
So was she guilty of?
You don't get due process when you're running someone over.
You just get
He
to.
wasn't.
That's
There's
not
no-
true. Okay,
there's
so then
no
why won't they
trial.
let the DOJ do an investigation then if they're so right and correct?
There will be an investigation.
No, they're not. They shut it down.
There will be an investigation.
No, there's not. So answer the question. Why won't they then?
Hold on, I'm answering his question first.
Okay, so that's a deflection. Let's go back to it.
No, it's not your turn to speak. It's his turn.
It's my turn to speak because we're not really following those rules. So what is the?
I'm following those rules.
Okay,
So,
because you don't want to answer the
excuse me.
question. Okay, go ahead.
We'll get to whatever you want to talk about later. But first, it's his
This
turn.
is your topic.
It's my what?
It's your topic.
But it's
And I
his
asked-
question. This is
Okay,
this is
go
why
on,
she
go on,
doesn't.
go on.
Okay, it's like the order of events. That's why we don't understand what happened with the lady running him over. So to your question, tactically, is this a bad idea? I don't think so. Some people say that Barack Obama deported 300,000 or 400,000 people. It's kind of fake because they're counting turnbacks among that. He did deport some people, but it's kind of fake because they're counting turnbacks. Right now, the border is totally shut down. President Trump, I think, probably has deported in his first year a little over 500,000 people, like 525 or 530,000 people. I do believe, and I buy the labor studies that have come out, that there have been a lot of self-deportations because of the optically brutal ICE raids. I think that's part of it too.
That's crazy. Wow, we've just been so brutal in executing people on the street, throwing them to the ground, cracking their ribs, literally blinding them with mace, that some people have just decided it's better to leave the country. And that's a good thing. Brought to you by Michael Knowles. Fucking insanity, dude.
So President Trump says he's deported over 2 million people. It's possible. It's somewhere between 500,000 and 2 million. Compared to the Biden administration, where they were letting in 3 million people a year, obviously that's a huge turn in direction. My question is, how are you going to get mass deportations, which most of the conservatives, I think, would agree, we're not even getting enough mass deportations. How are you going to get that if you don't go from job site to job site, from town to town, and try to round people up? Is that going to involve bad optics for leftists? It is. I just don't know what the alternative is.
Well, I think first it might require more funding for things like immigration judges who could process these sorts of deportations.
But if you
I think also
we're talking about like
the fundamental
16
of my
million
question
people.
is basically, if it turns out, let's just assume a hypothetical world where there is a Democratic landslide and Trump gets impeached over this, and we find as a result of surveying people who voted against Republicans in that election that a big part of this backlash was due to this type of ICE enforcement. Are you not going to think that, maybe we could have done this a little bit differently?
Well, what's the alternative? So you
Can I
mentioned we need.
answer?
Yeah, sure. Adam can answer.
The alternative is a moderate immigration policy like we saw under Obama. Do you know what they called him? The deporter-in-chief.
Yeah, but
Listen,
they were wrong.
Okay, they called Obama the deporter-in-chief. The problem here isn't the mass deportations. The problem, as he points out, are the brutal videos coming out of those that ICE is losing popularity with the public population. Obama deported a massive amount of people, but we didn't see the
Adam,
same.
do you dispute the turnbacks?
But let me see. Okay, the
Do you
turnbacks
dispute that
happened.
most of them were turnbacks?
They called
They were not
there
most
were
of them.
turnbacks, but not
Yeah.
most of them. They called him the deporter-in-chief, and he did that without cracking the ribs of 79-year-olds, without shooting U.S. citizens, without deporting people with zero due process, and then bringing them back to the effing country.
Do you agree
over
that
and
Trump
over.
has deported more people than Obama?
Yes, but he's deporting people that he shouldn't be deporting.
75% of them have no
they
criminal
illegal aliens?
background, no violent criminal record.
But are they illegal aliens?
They should. He's deporting
Are they
people with
illegal
no
aliens?
due
Undocumented, yeah.
process.
Are they illegal
Sure,
aliens?
yeah, they're
Kilmore,
illegal.
Armando, yes, but Kilmore
But
should
then
not
they
be-
should be deported.
Do you think people should? Do you think illegal aliens deserve due process?
Illegal.
Are we joking? Wait, do you guys think that? Do you guys think that illegal aliens? Then you're wrong. The Constitution specifically says in the Fifth Amendment that persons, not citizens.
we can expedite their due
Wait,
process.
hold up.
Yes.
Can you just say if I'm right or wrong? Does the Fifth Amendment specifically say persons, and that was upheld in a Supreme Court case, that it's persons, not citizens? Then look it up.
In the enforcement of
Check the
American
case law.
immigration law, we sometimes do things a little more efficiently. We, for instance, deported 1 million people in the 1950s under President Eisenhower. If we were to give a
not a
lengthy
bench
trial to
No.
the 16 to 30 million illegal aliens
what
who are
it
in the
is.
country,
It's
we
not
would
a
never
lengthy-
deport
it's not
virtually
a-
any of them.
I'm not asking for a lengthy trial for someone like Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, right? The thing is, when he got deported over to El Salvador, no, I'm not. I have a pretty modern immigration policy. I think people should be here legally. Illegal immigration should be minimized. We should know everybody that's here. But like most Americans, guys, this isn't even me living out. Most Americans do not like to see these videos that are going everywhere. Most Americans don't like to see grandmas and abuelas being pulled off the street. And I keep going back to
There
this.
aren't that many abuelas. Come on.
There are. I keep.
There aren't that
I
many.
mean,
Wait,
like-
Are you okay with the U.S. citizens that have gotten caught up? So I keep going back to this case, but a 79-year-old U.S. citizen got his rib cracked by an ICE agent and is now suing the DHS. So
I think it's very unfortunate when it's a very small number, but when innocent people or American citizens or legal residents are caught up in these raids. The problem is illegal aliens don't walk around the country with a big
No.
sign saying, I'm an illegal alien.
That's why due process is necessary, motherfucker. Thank you for proving the fucking point. Yeah, they don't walk around looking different unless you profile them. So how do we know whether they're legal or illegal? First off, you got to have some justification. You got to have some reasonable cause to believe that they're not in this country legally. And then also you have to have a process by which to determine that. That's due process. Oh my God. Oh, it's fucking exhausting. Jesus Christ.
problem was created by those who allowed the millions of illegals to come in, and now Trump's cleaning up
The
the
problem
mess.
is, you guys can never admit when ICE does anything wrong whatsoever.
that.
So
I'm
there was
happy
an
to admit
article
that.
from Slate that came out just 2 days ago
Well,
where
I'll never admit anything in Slate.
No,
Wow,
this
very
woman
good.
provided all
I
of
don't
the
know why you said
receipts. This liberal woman applied for ICE. In her whole internet history, she was shitting on ICE. She smokes a bunch of weed and posts about it. And
Wasn't me.
she didn't even submit the domestic battery, her history on it. Like, she didn't submit anything, and ICE still let her in. So the problem is, undertrained ICE agents are being given the funding of national militaries. Like, they're funded more than national militaries. They're masking up in such a way that emboldens them, and then they're going around and
Why are they
terrorizing
masking?
communities.
Because they're a
Why are
bunch
they
of
masking?
Because they want
pussies and the
anonymity.
Why are they
information
because
lies.
they
Correct,
take
because they're
every
anonymity.
incel loser
Because
from
they're
the
being
small town
doxxed.
high school,
And they're being threatened
as they
on
should,
camera.
because they're a bunch of pussy losers. And like, okay, listen, if you want a job, where you can go terrorize elementary school students and pepper spray them, ICE is for
what?
you.
Correct, it did happen.
What did they do? Okay,
Roosevelt High
Minnesota.
School
what
did
did they
get-
do after
did get-
Roosevelt? Yeah, they went to Roosevelt High School. First they went
They
to an
gassed
elementary
students
school.
with
Teddy or
objectively-
Franklin?
Can
Was
you
it
ad-
Teddy or Franklin?
Can you?
Oh, whoa.
Good one.
So
So
they went-
funny.
ICE does anything.
You know what I
Teddy
mean?
or-
Can you believe Michael here? Like, obviously I can. This is all entertainment jazz for him. But he's like, they went to Roosevelt High School. Yeah, it wasn't Teddy or Franklin Roosevelt. See, when we say that conservatives don't give a shit about people and children, Lauren was bringing that up. Conservatives don't care about babies. They don't care about children. There's your proof. We brought up a point, or not we. Sorry, us on the left. Lauren brought up a point that they literally tear gassed elementary school students. And then Adam's like at Roosevelt High School, or not Roosevelt, sorry, at Roosevelt Elementary School, and Michael's like, was it Teddy or was it Franklin? Like such a sociopathic answer to that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's devoid of humanity.
Or
Objectively-
Franklin?
Can
Was
you
it
ad-
Teddy or Franklin?
Can you?
Disgusting.
Good one.
So
they
Can you
went
admit
to
that ICE does anything wrong? Can you ever admit that ICE does anything wrong, or do you think they should have absolute
Yeah, I
immunity?
think I have admitted that. They hired
Say
that
it
liberal
again,
pot smoking lady.
louder.
I think that was wrong.
Okay, but do you think they have absolute immunity like JD Vance does?
I think they should be given extraordinarily broad immunity.
So
Yes.
That's not the answer.
extraordinarily broad immunity for things they do on the job.
Yeah, for
Sense-
official acts.
So
Yeah.
they can just go shoot people?
Since
Yeah, I
the-
think Vance is totally right about that.
But how did, like,
you think he's right? Since the inception of
immunity
ICE,
is not an excuse for morality. Like, again, I want to bring it back to Nuremberg. Like, what happened to the people carrying out these atrocities in 1930s
Yeah,
Germany?
I don't think
They
removing
were
Trende
following their
Aragua
or- no,
is
they were
akin to
following
a
their orders
Nazi
too.
I want
They
to
were
bring this
following
back.
their
I want to
orders
bring this
too.
back. What can you admit that ICE has done wrong thus far? Because most
I
Americans
just gave you an example.
They haven't deported enough people.
obviously, like a real example of ICE doing something wrong. You mean not vetting people
Yeah, I
enough?
can't think of a particular
Wait.
example.
So, were you serious about the pot smoker? Do you think ICE should be vetting people more for ideological reasons?
If they can,
for...
the problem is the problem is so massive because there are 16 to 30 million people, and ICE was so
That's a
understaffed.
massive range, bro. 16 to
I know
30
they're
million
illegal. We
people?
don't know
Yeah.
where they are. You call
Hold on,
one
this is a thing too. He's saying that because the problem is so big and there's so many people, we don't need to vet people properly. Think about that. Imagine if the police department was like, yeah, we just have so many criminals, we're going to let literally anyone in. Is that a justification here? No, it's going to make the problem worse. We don't need to go through the proper training steps because the problem is just so bad. This is the problem with immunity and invoking national emergencies is it allows people to overlook and go through basic precautionary steps to ensure that people are kept safe.
minute. That's the problem. We don't have any
I don't
doctors.
care what you call them, dude. I think that the
I know, I'm just saying
administration...
that's why we have a broad range. We don't know how many of them there are.
Hey,
Yeah.
Adam, I got a question for you. Sorry, that was a little aggressive.
No, you're good. Oh, okay,
sorry.
what's up?
Hey, I just had a
Gregory.
question about the due process for
Uh-huh.
illegal immigrants versus like an American citizen.
I remember this.
Does an illegal immigrant have an entitlement to legal representation?
No,
An
because it's a
entitlements?
because it's a
Are
civil
they
offense.
entitled to legal representation?
They have all of the
Largely because it's a
rights
civil
defined
offense.
under the Fifth Amendment of
Correct.
the Constitution.
And there is, unfortunately, and I actually disagree with this, everyone should have a right to an attorney, regardless of whether it's a criminal or civil violation. Currently, right now in this country, the right to an attorney that's provided to you in the Constitution is only given for criminal proceedings. And since many immigration proceedings are civil proceedings, there is no right to a attorney. So it's not because they're undocumented. It's because the overwhelming majority of immigration cases are civil. Because being in this country with undocumented is a civil violation. It's true. It's the same type of demeanor as a parking ticket or jaywalking. It's true. I mean, you can disagree with that, but it's true.
They're not guaranteed legal representation in their immigration case.
Well, are U.S. citizens?
So we can agree that no, they're not U.S. citizens. Immigrants, they're not U.S. citizens. They are
Wait,
not
some are.
guaranteed. They're not guaranteed.
Can I ask you-
This guy was
they're not
fucking
guaranteed
crazy.
legal representation.
Wait, can I ask you, do you
in their
think only
immigration case.
citizens or persons, any person in the United States deserves due process?
That's not the question. That's
No,
not,
no, I'm asking you
an
a
illegal
question.
immigrant
That-
in,
that is
in
the
an,
question
in an
about due process.
immigration case. In an immigration case, someone is being deported for being here
Okay,
illegally.
But
Are
that is,
they guaranteed legal representation?
no, but that is not all that there is to due
So-
process. Due
no,
process
no,
is
that's not.
broad
But we
thing.
can agree that
It's a
due
yes or
process
no.
looks different for immigrants versus American citizens, right?
No, it looks
wait,
different
they're
in
not-
the type of case. That's what it looks different in. It looks different whether it's a civil case or a criminal case. It's not about whether they're a citizen. It's the type of case it is. Because majority of immigration cases are civil cases, they're not entitled to representation. Here's an example: the guy who killed Laken Riley, and there's the whole uproar about that, and all of the backlash to have expedited removal, and that's the case they love to parade around, despite her family literally asking the Trump administration to stop doing so. Regardless, that individual is entitled to legal representation. He will have a government-appointed pro bono lawyer at his trial, presumably, assuming he can't afford one, because that's what due process demands for a criminal investigation for murder in that case. So, yes, he will be entitled to representation because it is a criminal case. It wouldn't be if it was a civil violation, like a majority of the people who are in this country undocumented.
It looks
Wait,
a
no,
little
they're
different
saying that
for
immigrants
immigrants
get no due
versus
pro-
American citizens.
They're saying that immigrants get no due process.
No,
Wait, do you guys
no,
think immigrants should
no.
get any due process?
He's just arguing that due process for the illegal alien deportation cases is markedly different from an
Correct.
ordinary
In a
And
case.
lot of different ways.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But what I'm arguing
That's a
is
good
that
point. That's
no,
a
no,
good point.
that's
You should
totally
be up
fine.
here.
What you're saying is true. But what I'm saying is there was no due process for the cases like Kilmar, Armando, Abrego, Garcia. There was no. What was
Yeah,
the
but
due-
then Chris
Oh
Van
my
Hollen went and cried
How
and had a
many
romantic lunch.
deportations
No, no,
ordered
you
did
can
he
make-
Do we have a question
hey,
over
how many
here?
deportations ordered
I've
did he
got a
have?
question.
You can make jokes when
I
you're
will make
cornered.
jokes about
What the
Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Yes.
This guy
What's
was
your
He's
question?
back in the U.S., buddy.
Yeah, what the this guy on the right, you're a big boomer guy.
He's a
Um,
boomer?
Boomer?
A
He's,
boomer?
got- he's a trans boomer.
Don't
he
talk to
identifies
Adam
as a
like
boomer.
that.
Hands
What's your
boomer?
name again? The blonde girl. What's your name?
My name?
Yeah.
Lauren. Yours?
All right, Michael. My name's Whitfield. Michael, my question is for you. Do you think that Lauren prefers anthropomorphic Minotaur smut novels or AI-generated ice romance novels? Thank you for the question.
It's good. I
I don't know what the first one was.
Well, okay, then it's the
The second
second.
one.
I say it's the second.
It's the
then.
second.
Is that fair?
Ice porn?
There was a millennial lady who went on TV, or she went on TikTok or whatever, and maybe I'm the boomer. I say she went on TV, and she goes there. She says, "You know, hating men for so many years has trained me to stop ICE." And she was admitting, it was this
okay.
amazing psychological admission that a lot of these protests are about like women who hate their dads,
Oh, I'm
basically.
sure.
And it's
Oh, I'm
unfortunate.
sure.
It's like that's what all of liberalism comes down to is three
Oh,
words:
really?
screw you, dad. But
Oh,
I don't
really?
even think it's
That's really
primarily
great.
about the cops.
Can I bring it back around to one final
Yes.
thing?
Screw you,
Can,
Minotaur.
can you say, Michael? Michael,
That's
you
the
asked
problem. Adam is too good faith. He needs to be able to crack a joke more in these types of conversations. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Adam does great, but like this dude's talking about Minotaur porn, and you're trying to hone back to the conversation. Like, take a break for a second. Just breathe. That's my. I don't know. I think Adam's great, but like sometimes he's just so locked in that like I don't know. It just comes off as people in the bar like aren't really. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe I did the same thing in my episode. Sometimes it can be difficult to get around there, but yeah.
yes or no question. Can I
Yes.
ask you one? Did the
Yes.
ICE agent who shot Renee Nicole Good get knocked on the ground on his ass?
Oh my gosh, dude.
He got knocked over.
Wait, no.
Minotaur
Yes
or
or
not,
hey,
bro?
hey, yes or no?
Is your question, was he flat on the ground?
Everybody said he was not. Wait,
Was he
first of all-
flat?
first
Are
of
you
all,
saying
guys,
flat, head
first-
and
wait, wait,
toes
hold
flat on
hold
the ground?
What,
Probably
guys,
not.
was he knocked on his ass? Okay,
He
was
was
he
not.
knocked
He
on
was.
his ass?
He was knocked over. He was not. He was
Okay,
not
can I
flat
show
on the
you?
ground. He was
Can-
not flat
Can
on
I
the ground.
please have the honor of
He's a-
showing you
he's
this?
a
No,
Minotaur
don't
guy.
you
Let's
bell
be
when I'm
real.
showing
He's
this.
showing
I'm
him.
granting
He's
your
showing.
point. I'm granting your point. I'm granting your point that he was not flat on the ground. He was.
Okay, but that's a
He was
pretty.
knocked
wait,
over.
you guys are being really dishonest
He
about that like
knocks,
10
not
minutes
dishonest
ago.
he
at all.
knocks the
You
ICE
guys are being
agent
very
flat on
dishonest.
his
Hold on, wait, 10
sultry
minutes.
ass.
Whitfield.
He knocks the ICE agent flat on his sultry ass.
Wait, do you
in
actually
the,
think
in
that?
the moonlight.
Wait, do you actually think that?
No, I think you want to read AI-generated ice.
Wait,
smut
no. Do you
novels.
actually think what you just said? Do you think he got knocked on his ass?
All right.
Say
all right.
what?
Wait, no, stop.
All
Do you
right.
think he got knocked on
Adam's
his
made
ass?
his point.
I'm so sorry, but
Do I think he got knocked on his ass? No, I don't think he got knocked on his ass.
Okay, then why were you guys
Dude,
like,
hey,
coming in
hey,
and
what's your
hollering
name
a second
again?
ago?
What's your name? What's your name?
Adam.
Adam, listen. I've almost gotten hit by a deranged retard in her car, okay? I had a gun in my pocket, which I was not able to bring up here because of safety and everything. And I had to contemplate, am I going to shoot this black chick or not? as a 6'4"
Jesus
white
Christ.
guy, when a woman who was
Yeah, I'm sure you really wanted to
let out
shoot
on
her.
the street by Gerald Ford and Ronald Reagan to take some lithium instead of going to a state-run mental institution, decided to drive up to Nashville at 8 a.m. in the morning and try to run me over. So I know about cars menacing me, and I'm not a fucking
I don't care
federal
about your
agent.
personal experience. You
know.
guys all
No, but he
lie.
has
just-
he's
Is this a
explaining
therapy session? Did I just crash a therapy
he's
session?
explaining what it's like. He has
I'm
firsthand
letting you know,
experience.
dude.
Have
I'm
you
letting
ever
know.
driven
I
in
know,
LA?
I know you have to be Michael's foil, but I know y'all have to be Michael's foil here. It's like bar fight or whatever. But dude, if a federal agent is having a car coming towards them, you're gonna
He
get
was
smoked.
standing on
Yeah.
his feet, and the car missed him. The car
If
was
a
rever-
car
the car
hits a
hit him.
federal
Ask you.
agent, they're gonna smoke you. And I will say this: there, in no other country in the world will they have as much pause and discretion.
Well, no other country in the
Okay.
world is
This
as
is
good
why.
as a
There we go.
They're
That's why
like-
saying America's better. If you want to make that
Like,
argument.
are you?
This is a really interesting point. Now, Adam's going to bring it up in a second, so I'm obviously acknowledging what Adam is going to say, that that's what makes America better. And I think it's a good point to make, that conservatives always like to talk about how America is better than other countries. It's the best country among all. And then immediately when you start talking about, like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, or we shouldn't just have rogue federal agents murdering people in the streets, or like, well, in other countries they wouldn't tolerate this. I'm like, yeah, but don't you think that we're better than those other countries? Shouldn't we be held to a higher standard? It's ridiculous.
Like, dude, okay, go to Venezuela.
No other country in the world
Hey,
is as good as America, and in America we
listen.
have human dignity for our citizens. So, can I
I
ask you,
agree.
why
That's
would she
my whole
back up?
point.
Why would Renee Nicole Good back up in her car, and why would she wave
It's
people
called
past?
potential energy.
All I'm saying-
You have
Potential
to
energy?
get it.
Potential
All I'm
energy.
Before
saying
you
is
go
some of you
forward.
guys, and I don't support violence, but some of you guys have never had your ass kicked, and it really shows.
He had a lady almost
really
roll
shows.
into him.
Whoa. I've had my ass kicked.
That's
What?
a crazy thing to admit.
You don't know. I've had my ass kicked.
Okay, it doesn't act. You're not
That's
acting
crazy. She got him to volunteer that he had gotten his ass kicked. I'm sorry, that's just so funny to me. No, I've gotten my ass kicked. I've been kicked. Like, oh my god.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have you gotten your ass kicked, or have men
Because,
protected you
I
your
mean,
whole
have you
life?
ever driven in LA? I'm not. If women,
Yes,
if women
LA
pulled,
sucks
let me stop.
ass.
If women pulled a gun every time they felt unsafe, none of you would be here. None of you would be here, except for Adam.
That's not
Adam,
true.
Yeah, it's true. And Aaron.
Now, I will say this, because you remind me a lot of my wife, and Michael and you arguing
Ew.
really reminds
No,
me
your
of that.
poor wife.
Hey, you said it. Okay.
Am I your husband?
If my if my wife was being menaced by a car and it hit her thigh, and she had a gun and she was a man and could draw quickly,
Okay,
she
what
would
if your
shoot
woman?
She'd
you.
get
What if your
charged with
wife was the one in the
manslaughter.
car?
Yeah, she
What
would
if-
get
Yeah,
charged with
because she's not a
manslaughter.
federal agent, and if she was in a fucking gay state like California,
She would,
then maybe
no,
she
she
would.
would get charged with manslaughter anywhere. And
Let's
you're saying that the ICE
what
agent,
was your name again?
Dude, you
What-
wouldn't get charged with manslaughter in the state of
if
Tennessee
it touched her thigh, yes.
if it fucking bumped
Well, you can
up
also get
against her
married
and
as a child
hit
in
her.
Tennessee, so anything goes here, you know?
So can you in California?
No, you
I looked
can't.
it
Not in
up.
California. Only in the Bible Belt. Google it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't fucking care.
So let's
Shot?
do a
Yeah.
little,
Go forth,
let's do a
Lauren.
little
Go
role
forth.
play.
I'm ready to hear.
No,
Oh,
no,
sure.
All right,
Okay.
all right,
You
all
let me
right.
go.
Break it up, you two. The
Nighty-night,
tension. You
baby.
can cut the tension with a knife.
I
Now we
know.
have to pick.
We should write a novel
We
together.
should write a novel about that. We should. Now we got to pick who won the round. Before we get to the more important question of who won the question round, I think I know the winner. So who here thinks that the libs won the debate on that topic? You got to put your cards up. Blue cards
I'm
up,
sensing
okay?
some audience bias here.
Not a lot. We got one blue. We got one
I love a
blue.
democracy,
Okay.
though, to be honest.
Now, how many think that I won that debate? Okay, all right.
Wow,
we
what a
got
shock.
two, all right. That's great. Listen, this happened the
Liars.
first time. The first time he was here, it was all very reasonable people, so I kept winning everything. And then on the next few debates, there were a bunch of libs that came in.
Oh,
And so it
really?
was more
Oh.
like 50-50. But today, I don't
libs
know.
pulled
Now
up.
we have to figure out who won the question round. I think.
I'm not
I
gonna
think
say,
we know. I think we know. Okay. Mr.
Get
Mr.
mogged.
Whitfield, would you please go over to the John Rich Redneck Riviera VIP
Oh
table?
shit! Is that my prize for
Gregory.
That's your
mogging
prize.
this guy?
That's your prize. You can write the novel while you're over there. Okay. Now it's round 3. Yeah, there we go. All right. I hope you had Z-biotic before you started tonight. Okay. So the remaining topics: Trump is a great president and not at all corrupt. Did we do that one already?
No,
No, we didn't. Okay. We have a major Somali problem, and we need white men to save us. We already did abortion. Trump is putting Americans first. The Venezuela strike was as American as Taco Bell. It's kind of
I like Venezuela, though. I like
I
Venezuela.
like
I know.
Venezuela.
I
It's
like
fun.
that one. They don't like it as much. Okay.
Yeah. That's topic 5.
So, all right. I think it's between. Gosh, I don't know. It might be between 3. Who says the Somalis? Okay. Who says Trump putting America first? Not as much. Who says Venezuela? It's
Venezuela.
You think it's Venezuela? What do you think, Mr. Davies? Venezuela or Somalis?
Venezuela
Okay,
over
all
here.
right, let's take it. All right, that's actually mine. Okay. I believe,
It's a really interesting topic,
and I
actually.
am correct to believe that the Venezuela strike was as American as apple pie. Now, I want to be clear. I support the strike, but I'm not arguing that it was a great strike. It was. It certainly was. It was an excellent strike. But I'm not even making that point. I'm not saying it was geostrategically necessary, though probably it was. I'm simply saying it was very, very American.
True.
Some people came out afterwards, said it was unprecedented and unlawful. It was funny because Kamala Harris said it was unlawful, and it was awkward because her own administration had called for precisely the arrest of Maduro and actually offered $25 million to get it. So Trump did exactly what she wanted, but saved $25 million, which is great. But it was very, very American. And this is because we have been intervening in Latin America since 1846, really going back to 1823 with the Monroe Doctrine, but actively since the Mexican-American War, 1846. We have intervened 88 times in that period, now 89 times, I guess,
Yeah,
because
look how
of
it looks.
Venezuela. We did it something like 7 times in the 19th century. We did it a little more than that, 77 times in the 20th century. We've done it 4 times in the 21st century. It was awesome. It did the founding fathers proud, and it's very, very American.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Following up on that, you just named a lot of the regime changes or at least removals of leaders in Latin America and the Middle East. Can you name a single time in the past 50 years it's gone well for us, for the United States?
Yeah. Quite
It's not
recently.
Panama.
In Panama, it was great.
No,
we got
it did
Noriega out just 30 years ago. Worked out
Yeah,
great.
how'd that work?
So
No,
I think part of the problem
no, it didn't genuinely make Panama better. Panama got better for a lot of other geopolitical reasons, but it was not better just because of that guy being out. Okay? Panama, for example, they got a lot of foreign aid from the U.S. and other countries. So, for example, we didn't cut off foreign aid to the country. We actually helped them monetarily. We didn't install our own puppet there. So, for example, during that time when there was the guy who was put in after Noriega, it was a disaster. Okay, and then once that guy was ousted, actually, the Panamanian people removed him in another coup of their own, and then had their own leader. It's been better since, but also in a lot of reasons because of continued U.S. foreign aid, which is a big reason why a lot of these places are a lot better.
is the prompt that you sent me. Well, I was curious.
Yeah.
Can you admit that the vast majority of times they've not only gotten wrong, but it's led to the deaths of like hundreds of thousands of people? When have we done a regime change? This is just history, right?
No, sometimes Middle East has
not
gone
just
worse.
sometimes, a lot. In Latin America too.
And Central,
The
yeah.
Middle East has gone worse than Latin America. Latin America, we're better at it.
No.
Sometimes it can go wrong.
It goes
In
wrong a
Guatemala,
lot.
it went a little rough.
It did
But a
go,
lot
yeah.
of times it's pretty easy. I mean, we've gone in places like the DR. We go in, we take someone out, and then
We just keep doing
kind
it.
of reform him. We put him back in sometimes. We basically created the nation of Panama out of Colombia. We've done it in Nicaragua a bunch of times. So
Nicaragua
we've
was
been
a
pretty
terrible example with the Contras, funding them, leading to like instability in the region for decades. No, absolutely not.
actually pretty effective there.
I don't think in Latin America it's turned out well 90% of the time. So the prompt that you submitted to me was that the strikes on Venezuela were as American as Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I agree in the sense that you regret eating Taco Bell the next day. In the same way that most regime strikes are regretful. Or no, sorry, most regime changes are regretful at some point. Now, this isn't even me again living out. If you look at the history of both, I'm not. If you genuinely, I want to put America first, and I want to prioritize Americans
good
on
faith
the
he is.
ground, not only economically when unemployment is up, not only small businesses, but I think Americans should be prioritized. And right now, I see Donald Trump being caught up with things abroad. So not only Greenland, not only Canada, he talks a lot about Europe, but he talks a lot about Venezuela. I've seen him talk more about Venezuela and Greenland than inflation or healthcare at this point. And the problem is with Venezuela or with Latin America, almost all regime changes we've done have gone poorly over the course of a few years. So even with Gaddafi, like this is what really,
Gaddafi was awful. That
Okay,
was
yeah,
a disaster under Obama.
but this
yeah.
proves my point too. Like I'm not going to defend Obama on this,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
this
it was
proves my
awful.
point. In the 2 to 3 weeks following the removal of Gaddafi, I was doing this research, looking up the articles. People were celebrating, and people were saying this is finally bringing an era of peace. People were saying now that Gaddafi is gone, the Middle East is going to be reformed. Well, guess what? Like 2 or 3 months later, they devolved into
Civil
a
war.
civil war with
Yep.
open-air slave markets, and they are
Bro's like,
still in a
"No,
very bad spot.
no,
So I'm not
definitely
even going to argue against the removal of Maduro. I thought the military did a great effing job. The
It was,
military
it was
killed.
amazing.
It was so impressive. Of course,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course. I
It
also
was an
think
incredible
Maduro
tactical
is
strike,
the
I will
enemy
say.
of the Western civilization. I think Maduro is the enemy of America. So don't mistake me as defending Maduro, but I genuinely think there are problems with regime changes being carried out, and there are also problems with the president unilaterally striking other countries without the authorization of Congress.
So you're making one big error. And because you've conflated two things. I said there have been 88 interventions in Latin America, and you've equated them with regime change. Only 15 of those were regime change. Sometimes they were interventions to just make the regime act a little better.
But in the
case,
interventions blew back too.
Time out. That is a regime. Oh my. Hold on. We didn't do a regime change. We just did a regime adjustment. We just did a regime correction, fine tuning of the regime, but it wasn't changed. It was just altered. Like what, Michael? Fucking ridiculous, man. Like, oh my God.
sometimes they were interventions to just make the regime act a little better.
But in the
case,
interventions blew back too. I mean, we can call it whatever you want. When you militarily
no, but
remove
those
a
are different
leader,
things. The key here is: do you think the Venezuela strike was a regime change?
I think it's
It could be the
regime
start of it.
coercion at this point because the regime is
But
still
it's not
standing.
regime change.
I mean,
Is the
it's-
regime still
Hold
it's
on.
military.
You do think that regime change can take time, right? Like it can take time to get there. Just saying.
intervention. But wait, that's not a good argument. The Maduro regime is still there, and you think that looks good for us?
Yes, because
so?
I agree with you that sometimes massive upheavals of regime are a bad idea. The biggest
Most
problem,
times. Most times.
maybe not.
Most,
The biggest
yes.
problem in Iraq, of course, was not when we entered. We actually were greeted as liberators. The problem was when we disbanded the Ba'ath Party, when we debathized Iraq and created the
killed
insurgency.
all of them.
So in the case of Venezuela, what we're doing here is not Bush era spreading of democracy, Madisonian liberalism around the world.
Wait, what are we doing then?
What we're doing there is kicking China
Oil.
out, kicking Iran out, kicking Russia out. We're taking oil that is owed to us. We're
Owed
taking out
to us.
Maduro.
What do you mean owed to us, Michael? You're just going to say owed to us. In what way? It's our right. Manifest destiny. Owed to us. The oil's owed to us. Same way women owe their husband sex, according to Michael. Just saying, it's been discussed before in other bar fights.
Who's been a target of the United States for 25 years now, since the Chavez regime, and now we're leaving his deputy in charge, and we're saying play ball or else. What's going to happen otherwise is we're going to treat you worse than Maduro.
Okay, but
That's
this is a
regime
Which is
problem.
very
It's
restrained.
called,
and
we
very
do a little Donroe doctrine.
the
this is-
Donroe Doctrine, baby. Now
This
we're
is a
talking.
massive, massive problem. This is a massive
You can't
problem.
have a conversation about geopolitical relations and politics in a bar with a bunch of drunk dumb fucks. Like, I'm sorry, like this is gonna go nowhere. Like you know what I mean? How many of these people do you think could label Venezuela on a map? That's a genuine question. I'm just
A
I
lot
wanna
of
hear what
times
she has
when
to say.
interventions fail, it's because there's not a solid backup plan. I think this would have gone way better.
But
if-
there's the backup plan. Leave
No.
the vice president in place.
Okay, that is an awful backup plan. I think he should have at least endorsed Machado, who is the opposition leader.
That
There's
would have
so
been
many-
that would have been a full regime change.
There's so many.
That would have been Libya. That would have
Okay,
been
but
Iraq.
we are going in to pillage their resources like oil. Then we are
No,
holding.
first of all, some of those are our resources
Okay,
that they stole.
we can debate that, but we can then oil executives. I mean, just to back up, everyone in this room, most people in this room who voted for Trump, probably wanted Trump to put America first. Right now, what I see is Donald Trump focusing so much so on foreign countries that he is now pillaging Venezuela for their resources, without helping the Venezuelan people. How does this help the
So
Venezuelan
then who's it
people?
helping?
It's helping
Americans
No,
first.
it-
Oil
no,
companies.
you're wrong. You're wrong. It's not. It's helping oil executives. It's helping Chevron. It's helping oil execs that were sitting around
Do you
that
do you think
table.
that when the
Oil
United
executives who
States
do not care if you guys die uninsured, by the way. None of them know your name.
But wait a minute.
So it's like you're
Womp
riding for
womp.
Chevron,
Think
but
about
none
this.
of them know you. so
Donald
like,
Trump-
why are we like, woo, Chevron?
Donald Trump put U.S. troops' lives at risk during this operation just to make oil executives rich.
no,
Can you guys
That
pay
is
for that?
absolutely true.
Adam, there was
Yeah,
a legal
woo!
order going back 5 years for the arrest of Nicolas Maduro.
That's not an illegal.
The previous
I'm not making an illegal argument, a legality
the
argument.
previous administration called for this very action.
I'm not making a
and it-
legality argument.
No, you're saying that. Do you think that the Biden-Harris administration only called for that policy? Do you think the judge who issued the arrest warrant
You can
only
issue
did
the
so
warrant.
to make oil executives rich?
Well,
No,
no,
I think
they didn't do it for that reason. Well, hold on. There could be an arrest warrant for Maduro because he subverted the election and is very authoritarian. And it can also be the case that Trump's motives in doing so was not to bring Maduro to justice. No, it wasn't. It also can be the case as well that this was an illegal strike in the fact that Congress was not notified of this. Congress has to be notified, even under the War Powers Resolution. Congress has to be notified of these things before it happened, especially the Big Five, the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader of the Senate, and members of the Cabinet. They were not. So.
that at
Exactly.
Least, no,
There
no,
you go. And
no,
Trump
no.
didn't do it either.
No, I have a better answer. I think that Biden would have at least encouraged Machado to step into power and then help the Venezuelan people.
Your
Wait,
problem is
so can you
He
admit that
can't
we are
even say
we are
Machado,
sub-
bro.
what? We are subjecting the Venezuelan people to take their oil to just benefit us. This is not a good precedent to set. You're not making a good argument here.
no.
How does this benefit the Venezuelan people at all?
The dictator of Venezuela was inviting our enemies into the hemisphere: China, Russia, and Iran. They were sending illegal aliens by the busload, much more than the busload, into the United States, especially under Joe Biden. They were
Why were
sending
they coming here,
drugs
though?
into the United
Hold on. Why were they coming here? This is a really good question. This is something conservatives never like to talk about when they talk about the flood of migrants at the border. Big reason is because of the destabilization of these countries due to regime change, due to the pulling of foreign aid, due to lax gun laws in the United States that result in a revolving door where firearms in the United States keep being sent to these Central American countries to embolden the cartels that leads them to making the places unsafe and driving people to the southern border. So a lot of things that lead to migratory patterns, okay? This is an adaptive problem, and it's not going to be solved by a technical solution of just erecting a wall. It's stupid.
States. They were funding terrorism. And so that was a national security problem for the United States. This has been the case as a cornerstone of American foreign policy since 1823. We removed him in
And it's
accordance with
never
25
worked.
years of U.S. policy.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, if Delcy Rodriguez begins to not play ball and tries to lengthen negotiations,
Trump threatened to kill her.
okay, so
Yeah,
we're going to
that's-
continue U.S. military force?
Yeah.
So,
Just
wait,
like we have since
wait,
1846,
you guys
baby.
have no
Yeah,
f***ing
that's true.
morals. You guys voted for no new wars, and Michael Knowles is up here saying that we might be in a prolonged war with Venezuela
Yeah,
if
we
Delcy
always do that,
Rodriguez.
Len.
You guys are all
War,
going
bro.
to
So, are you
go to
okay
war.
with Trump starting a prolonged war with Venezuela without the authorization of Congress? If
Where's
Delcy
the
Rodriguez-
war?
No,
Who's-
You
Where's
guys
the
couldn't
war?
even
Where's the
change
war?
a tire.
Where's the
and
war
you're
with
like,
it?
war?
No,
You
where's
guys
the war?
are really going to go to war?
Wait.
It's
We are
an
talking-
88-minute
wait.
war.
We are talking hypothetically if
Gregory,
Delcy
you're not ready
Rodriguez
to go to war.
doesn't help Trump. This was literally. Were you not listening over there?
Yeah,
we're
then
talking
then
about
Gregory
Delcy
wants to go to
Rodriguez.
war.
No, that's a
Gregory
great
doesn't
point.
think he's going to go to war.
No, I
Gregory.
didn't say there is a war. I said if Delcy
You're not gonna
Rodriguez
make it a
doesn't
war.
get
Well, I'll tell
power.
you what probably
I'm
will
sorry.
happen.
You're not
is
built for
probably
that.
what happened the last time we replaced the leader of Venezuela. Is that it'll take about an hour and a half, and we'll just go to the next guy.
Wait. So you're just
And
going to
that's gonna be
perpetually
effective?
remove leaders that are handpicked by
If we have to,
Maduro?
yeah.
Wait, then handpicked
That's
by
what we've
Delcy
done
Rodriguez.
That's what we've done for centuries.
This is the
in
most
Latin America.
ineffective, least American first policy ever.
We've
There-
done it since the
Okay, so
Mexican-American War.
Let me just
Anything
say,
for Chevron.
Donald Trump in
The Mexican-American War existed before Chevron existed.
There was still
under
oil.
the Trump
What do you-
administration
what?
back in 2019, they did a war games.
All right, finish your sentence.
They did a war game simulation of what would happen if we removed Maduro. It said within 1 to 2 months, there are 3 scenarios. Either it devolves into a civil war that cuts us off from oil, either warring militias begin to coup whoever is in charge, Delcy Rodriguez, and the third one was like even worse. So all of this, that's why they didn't do it. All of the scenarios in this war games showed that removing Maduro long term doesn't help. So you just made the
It's true.
argument that we could be perpetually.
So why do we do it?
No, you just made the argument that we could be perpetually removing leaders for the next few years while they draw out the negotiations, which is the United States being in a war with Venezuela. That's not what we want to do.
Okay, Adam Stone, I
necessarily.
want to hear what you have to say.
Oh,
I
yeah,
wanna
all
hear
right,
what
we
you have
gotta
to
go.
say.
Let's go. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Lauren, so name twins.
Woo!
I actually have a comment for you. First off, totally respect you for coming up here and debating. But I just think that, Lauren, I think if you use a little less ad hominem attacks and going after people's character, we'll all take you a lot more seriously.
They're not going to
Most of the comments you said have been reflecting on our appearances or our stereotypes, and I think we'll all listen to you a
I'm gonna
lot
take
more
you
if
now.
you back off on that and start using more facts.
Okay, so thank you, Lauren. What I will say is I don't get to. Everyone feels very entitled to kindness, but in the same breath, they're talking about killing mothers 4 times in the face, and we're like, woo! And then you're like, hey, Lauren, be a little nicer. So It
I'm
goes both
not
ways.
saying be nicer. I'm saying use facts instead of attacks on character because you should be able to defend your point with facts and not with going after how they love
And I
you.
what
have,
Michael
but I
does.
haven't gotten to be able to.
No, you haven't actually.
To be fair, it's a combative environment, and when people are booing you, sometimes it's easy to get defensive when you're on stage.
Yes.
Yeah, but
I know,
here's a
I'm
good
just-
example. Since we're having a nice little therapy session,
saying.
like
Yeah.
when we were arguing about abortion, you didn't really focus so much on the policy or the fact itself. You were trying to impugn the motives and psychoanalyze the people who say openly that, like myself,
It's not
that we
psychoanalyzing. It's just pointing out an inconsistency, a hypocrisy, rather. It's not impugn the motives. It's impugning. It's pointing out the contradiction between individuals who claim they care about saving babies, but cut all of the benefits that benefit people, including children. So it's not impugning the motives. It's not an ad hominem attack. It's calling you out for not being sincere in what you're advocating for, based on your other action. This is not, it's not, oh my God, you are stupid because your hair is blue. It's like, no, I don't actually believe you care about babies because all the other policies you support are increase infant mortality, increase child malnutrition. That's what it is about. So, no.
just don't want babies to be killed.
Okay, but the topic
Which I think
was
is unfair.
wanting to control women's bodies, and what did we get to? Wanting to control women's bodies.
Yeah,
and also a
I think
fundamental
you're-
misunderstanding of abortion. And it's very difficult to have a debate with around facts when people are not connected to reality, which objectively, the definition of abortion, which the room tended to just not agree with, which science is one of those things you either understand,
This is
you
the
can't
Bell
not
Girl.
believe in it, you just either,
Yeah.
it's like 2 plus 2,
you-
4.
You make a
Okay.
you make a great point,
Okay, you
Laura.
guys-
You either understand it or you don't. That's true.
Okay, yeah.
Next question.
Okay, I actually
And you're
have a
dying alone.
question.
Goodbye.
I actually have a question. I have a question for Lauren on the abortion topic, actually.
Perfect.
My
Oh,
first
wow.
question leading into
No
this
one wants
is,
to talk about Venezuela. Everyone's talking about abortion. All right.
do you believe that Black Lives Matter?
Oh, here we
Yes.
go. And it brings up abortion. I knew this immediately. She was going to bring this up. This is so fucking disgusting of conservatives to do. They do this intentionally. They bring it up just to pretend like they care about black people. The thing is in the womb. Oh, you really care about black lives. You care about black women. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Second to that is abortion has killed nearly half the population of Black people. If not for abortion, there would be almost double the amount of Black people that there
Yeah,
are today.
more people
Are
for you guys to hate. I'm sorry. Like this is not. There's a.
you glad that those women were not encouraged to control their bodies and give birth to their children?
Do
you think that those
I'm
lives
bring it back
don't
to
matter?
facts because you guys love facts.
That's a fact.
Fetuses are not people.
Okay, fine. It's fine. I don't want to get into that argument. This is how I would respond to this because I was sitting there like, oh, I want to respond to this. Why? One question that is kryptonite to conservatives. Why? Why is the abortion rate for black women so much higher? Why is it? Reason is socioeconomics. Because half of women who get abortions, nearly half, I believe, live below the federal poverty line. People get abortions because they can't afford having a child. And black women, because of economic policies in this country that disproportionately disadvantage African Americans, are more likely to be in those conditions that lead them to having abortions. So if you want black people to have less abortions, then support policies that will improve their economic conditions and lead them to actually choose to have children. If that's actually, we don't give a shit about that. You actually deny the existence of systemic racism while simultaneously saying that black women are just getting abortions. Why? Is it because it's systemically racist? Is that an example of systemic racism you claim to deny? Or are you going to bring it up now just because you care about, abortion in this sense? Like, it's just stupid. Like, it's a disingenuous question is what it is.
Fetuses are not people.
So the fetuses, the Black fetuses that were removed from their mother's wombs would have, had they been born, grown
They would
up.
grow up to be Breonna Taylor, and then they would get shot, and then you guys would blame them for dying at the hands of police violence. They grow up to be people that you guys hate.
To be Black children, Black adults, and they would have almost nearly double the population that they have today.
Wow,
That is
2 times more black people for y'all to demonize. I'm sure you'd fucking have a field day.
half of the Black population that has been wiped out because these women were encouraged
This
to
is
kill
also-
That's
their
just a
Hold on,
fact,
fetuses.
one second.
Okay?
I have to point this out to you. This is just terrible reasoning on her part. To say because a certain number of abortions that would happen, therefore we'd have double the population, is idiotic. Some people have an abortion and then have a child later. Okay, it's not like, oh, they didn't have a child, now they'll never have a child. Or if they had that child, they would also have another child. You know what I mean? Like, this is stupid. Like, when someone has an abortion, it's not, oh, they're never going to have a kid again. Did you know that a majority of women who get abortions already have a child or end up having a child in the future? So, no, we would not have double the black population. Would there be more people? Possibly. Would it be double? Fuck no. Like, what?
So,
Michael's like,
what's
maybe
your
I am
name?
pro
What is your
abortion.
name?
Fuck.
What is your
Molly.
name? Molly.
Nice to meet you. Yes, ma'am.
Nice to meet you too. So babies are not the same as fetus.
No,
Science.
but
They
she's saying,
literally
even
are.
to grant your premise, let's say that fetus isn't really a baby. What she's saying is, if the abortions did not take place, left unimpeded, those fetuses, or whatever you want to call them, would have become fully grown black people, and the black population of the U.S.
Obsession
would be
with
double.
black people.
Why are we
It
talking
wouldn't.
about the black
It
population?
wouldn't. It's also stupid. They're so obsessed with talking about black people when it comes to abortion. You know why? Because it's the one issue that requires no time, money, or effort on their end. All they have to do is tell a woman no. Being against abortion is the easiest thing you can do and call yourself pro-life. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is deny a woman an abortion. That's it. No money, no time, nothing else you got to do. You just have to tell a woman no. It's true.
When we're talking about control over women's bodies, if black women
that's her
want to have the
question.
baby,
Oh,
they
shit.
can
What
have
the
the
heck?
baby.
We don't only
Hold on.
talk
Sorry,
about what
guys.
you want to talk about.
Sorry, folks.
Lauren.
I don't know why Java came up.
I think that what we'd say is we'd prioritize the autonomy of these women to make their own decision over them being forced to have a baby
And where does this data
who
point
may
come
grow
from,
up in
Molly?
suboptimal environments or be. I mean, if these people got abortions, it's probably because they couldn't support a baby coming into the world. You guys always
Or
talk
they
about.
didn't want to.
Well, you guys always talk about single parent households, and you guys talk about these. If a baby is going to be born to a mother whose father left, and he decides to abort, or she decides to abort it, I think that she's making a decision to prioritize herself over a baby that will be born to a shitty situation. That's the environment. That's the argument that we make.
Do you think that a baby who has been born to a single mother should be open to a post-birth abortion? In other words,
Of course
he's
not.
going to grow up in a bad environment, all these problems that you're ascribing to these young black women, and we all know that, but he's been born, but he's going to have a really tough life, you think. Wouldn't it be better for that
Nice,
child
Michael.
to
No,
be
of
killed?
course not. No, I'm not.
Then why would it be better for
Nobody
the baby
said-
no, no,
5
not-
minutes earlier in the
Nobody
womb?
wants
to
Yeah,
die?
definitely 5 minutes
abortion.
earlier.
That's a murder.
What?
When a person is born, yes, that's murder. That's homicide, you guys. Come on.
I guess the point that Adam's making is interesting to me because it's kind of like the Freakonomics argument. You know, like they said crime rates went down because abortion rates went up, which is a pretty ghoulish argument, if it is even true. But I guess
Hold
my
on.
point...
It's not a ghoulish argument. People who are born into poverty are more likely to commit crimes. It's true. Crime rates match poverty in many ways. There's a lot of factors. We shouldn't boil it down to just that. But it's true. So if people are born in poor conditions, they're more likely to grow up in an impoverished community where they don't have the resources to succeed and then turn to crime. That's just true. Okay? So it's not a ghoulish argument. It's true. I mean, we shouldn't ideally be having abortions to avoid crime. Like that's not the argument we should make. We should improve the material conditions that allow people to choose life, bring children into this world that have flourishing lives and opportunities, and then they don't turn to crime. That's what we want to do here. But yeah.
The premise of your argument is that a kid growing up in tough circumstances justifies just killing that kid in the
I'm
first
not
place.
saying I justify that. I said the bodily autonomy of women. That's probably the argument that we make.
Plus
That women.
the bodily autonomy of women.
No, mainly the bodily autonomy of women to make the decision for their own situation.
So
is what
it's
I'm
really
saying.
because those are totally different. Really, I think you're saying the bodily autonomy is what it's all about, but also they grow up in bad situations. But if we only isolate the latter one, you would throw that
I'm
argument
saying
out.
the argument that she's trying to make basically is that women are prioritizing bodily autonomy over some nebulous idea of the black population growing. I think that
They're prioritizing it over their own babies.
Yeah.
And I think that's wrong.
okay, then yeah, we
well,
don't.
then,
We think
here's
that bodily
my
autonomy is
whole
good.
You
thing
kinda
is
think
if you
that's right.
don't want
No,
an abortion, don't get one.
Whatever happened to accountability? is the
How many
question.
people does it take to
But
make a
there are
baby?
long-term consequences to choosing to control your own body, whatever it is you're
What
saying.
is
There
it?
are long-term consequences, and half of the black population not being here today
Man, you
is
care
a
so much about
consequence
that.
of all of those
Okay,
women
wait.
choosing
I'm gonna let
for
Molly finish, then I'm gonna-
themselves
then I'm gonna
not
answer
to
it.
give
Let
birth
me
to their
answer this
babies.
one.
You care so
There
much
is
about
a
black people.
consequence
This
to
is such a
that.
fucking.
It's not just like
It's such a disingenuous argument.
So what's the fixation with black women's abortions?
Because it's proving.
I'm asking Molly.
statistic. It's a statistic.
So Molly, why
that-
do you care about why did you come up here and choose to talk about black women's abortions? Why?
Because it'll tug on
I'm
your
asking
liberal
Molly, not
heartstrings.
Michael.
That's
Yes,
why.
Molly?
yes.
I'm asking Molly. Molly, why
Because
did you
it is a
choose?
statistical example
Well,
of a
I know it's a
of the long-
statistical example,
Ma'am,
but why?
May
I
I
have a
finish what
question
I'm
about the
saying?
current
It is a
topic.
statistical example of the long-term effects of abortion.
Why did you choose that out of all the statistics you could have
Because you don't
chosen?
wanna
Because
talk
the
about
left,
that.
because
Venezuela
the
and the current topic.
the left, one of their pinnacle fights over the last 10 years has been Black Lives Matter.
Venezuela.
What
And
is
I'm
it?
standing up as a pro-life conservative saying Black
I can't
lives
hear
do
Molly.
matter.
Yeah, you do. Do you
Okay, so-
support the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you care when Black lives die at the hand of police? Do you care about all that? No, you don't fucking care. Like you know what I mean? We can play this game both ways around. You don't care about babies in the womb. You don't care about them out of the womb. Like I don't like.
Black Lives Matter. So black women who are alive and here and functioning on this earth, you don't believe that they have the right to choose whether having
kill
a
their kid?
baby
No.
is the right decision.
That's not
for
the
them?
question.
Okay, let's talk about that. Is the question. That is literally exactly
they
the question.
do.
It's getting
So
nowhere.
my
They have
question for
made
you,
that
Molly.
choice, and half of their population
Venezuela.
is not here.
I can't hear Molly because everyone's hooting and hollering.
What was your question?
Whatever you just said, couldn't hear that. Can you say it again?
I have a
Um,
question about the
I
current
don't
I'm
topic.
talking to Molly.
I don't remember what you asked and what I
So
answered.
why, like again, succinctly explain to me why you chose Black Lives Matter and forcing Black women to give birth is your platform of choice tonight. Why?
It's not. There's no one's forcing. We are encouraging and showing
Okay, encouraging
the
is a different
reality
thing
of
from forcing.
that a fetus is a baby and that every life deserves to have a chance to live. No one's forcing, holding the woman down. We are encouraging and hoping that they will give
Okay.
their babies the right to life and the opportunity to live a life.
Okay.
And if they're born into shitty circumstances, maybe they'll turn it around and become an incredible leader.
Yeah.
You
So-
don't know.
Molly, we agree on a couple things. We agree that like hope, sure, you can hope one thing, I can hope one thing, Gregory can hope one thing, but
What about wit? What about
Yes,
wit?
Gregory can hope one thing. Give it up for Gregory. But there's a difference between hope and forcing. And I
No
believe
one's
in the
forcing.
autonomy of women. Well, that's the thing. Well,
I
that's
would
what that's
force.
the question is.
I
Is
would
like
force. I know
when
you
it
The
would.
comes to
only
You
abortion.
also
thing
force
we
your wife
agree
to have
on
sex
is
with you.
that hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, that's okay,
Yeah,
fair. It's a
we're not
theological virtue,
asking
though.
you.
All right,
So-
hold on. We got to move on. Let's get to the
Venezuela
next question.
Okay, bringing it back to the current topic, I would like y'all to answer or explain, define what about international law is legitimate or has any sort of grounding or force. Because based on US law, every action taken in Venezuela was completely legitimate.
Yep.
But based on, all of the complaints about it are violations of international law. So please explain that.
That wasn't my complaint about it. I didn't bring in a legal argument or an international law argument. I think there's a decent argument that Trump made legal strikes. Now, the distinction I'd make, Obama made did a lot of strikes under the authorized use of military force in a post 9/11 era. Trump, when you're striking a country, should probably go through Congress before doing an act of war. But I'm not going
Yeah.
to
One sec. I'm also want to bring this up. Why does international law matter? International law matters for a few different reasons. One, it's important to have a cohesive global stage when carrying out action. So, for example, our allies should be aware of the military actions that we're taking so that they're not left completely just out to dry, for example. So, like when we did this, we didn't let other countries in Europe know that we were doing this. So, for example, let's say that Iran or another country launched a retaliatory strike against one of our allies, like in France or England or something like that. They would be high and dry. It's good to let your allies know so that they can be on defense in case there's a retaliatory strike against them. International law is also important because it props up things like NATO, which are important to ensure international security. Something like Article 5 of NATO is important for us to be aware of that, the United States, for example, invoked Article 5 after 9/11, and we had our allies come to our aid. So international law is important. Of course, it's not the only thing. And of course, international law is only as strong as the countries that uphold it. And the U.S. is a signatory to various laws in that sense. So that's important because we're sticking to agreements that we made. Now, do we have a long history of intervening in other countries? Yeah. So is international law somewhat nebulous and somewhat, amorphous? Yeah, of course. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And that doesn't mean that it's not important and something that we still need to focus on.
it's illegal or it's going to be upheld as illegal. The reason I say that every president should have to go through Congress, not only Trump, but Obama and Biden before doing this, is because we don't want presidents as Americans to be able to unilaterally strike or do acts of war. It's like, for example, Trump is talking a lot about Greenland lately. Would you be okay if Trump authorized a strike on Greenland?
I will become the most Dick Cheney neocon. I want F-35s flying over Nuke, baby. I want to greet them. I want them to greet us as liberators from their Danish overlords.
You
Yeah.
realize? Wait.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, you guys have no moral foundation. You guys voted for someone. No,
Adam's being mean too. Adam's being mean too.
Hold up. No. This is so true. Donald Trump said over and over, no new wars, no new wars. And you guys just cheered for somebody who wants F-35s to fly over a
No,
NATO.
I mean, look, I'm
a
exaggerating
NATO
a little.
ally.
It's a
No,
joke.
listen, no. Donald Trump has not ruled out military force against a NATO ally. Now, I want to talk a little bit about like international law and why it's important just for 1 second. In a post-World War II era, after the bloodiest conflict in human history, all the world leaders came together and said, we have to make sure the world doesn't devolve into chaos again. So they created NATO, which says that you can't just invade countries for no reason. I'm not wrong. But to continue,
Yeah.
good one, you guys.
Well, no,
good
it
one.
wasn't all the world leaders, right? There was half the world was aligned with NATO, half with the Warsaw
That's a
Pact.
great point. So developed countries decided to join NATO, then they got to enjoy.
No, the Soviet Union was a developed country.
Okay, the countries that joined NATO got to enjoy decades and decades of not only economic growth, but more technology, more medicine. The countries that haven't joined NATO are honestly like third world shitholes at this moment. So NATO exists to keep us safe, to make sure that we have a world order that is in focus, and the United States benefits from that world order. So I just don't like Donald Trump trying to step all over NATO, trying to threaten our NATO ally of Greenland. You realize we have U.S. troops on the ground in Greenland, not to invade them, but because they're a fucking ally. We could call them up and just say, hey, can we put more troops on the ground?
Is Greenland an independent nation?
Greenland is not independent, no.
Oh, you're right. So
can
we're
just
talking
call
about Denmark.
Okay, we have troops in Greenland.
Yeah.
So we can call up Denmark and literally just say, can we increase troops to Greenland? Or I'm sure we can communicate with Greenland directly.
Why does Denmark have Greenland? Isn't
Because
that
they bought
weird?
it.
We're closer to Greenland than Denmark is.
That's not how property or international law
closer
works.
to you
Isn't
right
that, well,
now.
you mentioned international law is very interesting here because you mentioned NATO, and it's very
closer to
telling
your wallet
that
than you right now,
misspoke,
so it's
and
mine.
you said that the whole world was united by NATO. No, that was a product of the Cold War, where half the world was divided into NATO and the other half was in the Warsaw Pact. And so when the
Which
Cold
one
War
do you
ended
support
now,
there?
35 years ago, the role of NATO dramatically changed, and the role of the United States as the sole global hegemon changed. And so there is such a thing as international law. I'm not one of these people who says international law is fake. There is such a thing.
Like
It goes
Matt
back.
Walsh.
Yeah, I'm not Matt Walsh. I do think it's real, though the point he's making is a good one, which is that the modern instantiation of international law, like the UN and associated bodies, is ridiculous. It's liberal internationalism.
It's not ridiculous. Article 5 of NATO has prevented nuclear war from breaking out.
The military might of the United States has prevented nuclear war from breaking out.
Dude, that's
what it is. And
also
that's all NATO is, too.
as well.
Wait, no.
That's ridiculous. The military might of the U.S. has prevented nuclear war from breaking out. It is mutually assured destruction, for sure, but it's also other countries. And knowing that an attack on one is an attack on all, you will trigger, it's not just the U.S. There's a lot of countries involved in that. And it's also not just military might. I want to make this very clear. It goes back to the whole idea of force doctrine, and this really struck me when he said it, of Andrew Wilson and other people who like to say, oh, the world runs on force, okay? If you can exert your will over someone, that means you have power, and because men hold the force. He does it in his stupid fucking incel way. But this just in general, it's not just the military might. It's also economic sanctions as well. It's also economic power and trading and things like that. For example, if a country strikes another country, it's very economically disadvantageous if countries sanction them, if countries refuse to stop trading. Russia has suffered greatly since its war with Ukraine, not merely just because of the weapons that we're supplying to Ukraine, but because of the massive economic sanctions and retaliation that we've levied upon them since this happening. So it's not just military might. Of course, conservatives like Michael are going to want to make it out to be just military might. It's not just military might. It's also economic power that we leverage towards them. And it's very important that we acknowledge that that's real, okay? And we don't have to put boots on the ground to protect our economic interests. And we already have boots on the ground in Greenland. So
everything. You're making my point.
One more question.
You're making my point. The military might of the United States has deterred countries from invading our NATO allies, which would also have military troops if they got invaded. So the might of the United States as the leader of NATO has benefited us.
We provide their military protection. China and Russia are aggressing on Greenland. It's strategically necessary. It's been the policy of the U.S. State Department since the mid-19th century to acquire Greenland, and we have to take it.
If China and Russia did anything to Greenland, under NATO, Article 5 would mean that we retaliate. Like, Russia and China are not
and we're getting a
surrounding.
head start. That's what's going on.
preemptive self-defense, so I'm sure.
You guys have no
Michael?
moral foundation if you're okay with Greenland.
I appreciate people who've never seen conflict really like get emboldened and really like lash out about how they know everything about world conflict
I'm
on a
not saying
grand
I know
scale.
everything. What are you
And
talking
it's
about?
for a lot of people in this country. You know, we've never had conflict.
Are
on
you
our
okay
shores.
with new wars being started? Because that's what he's saying.
My question
That's
to
not
you
what it- that's
is,
not what it is.
Well, you just said you want F-35s over Greenland.
So-
now you're saying you're not
There
saying
won't
that.
be a war. It won't last very long.
No moral foundation. So
I
wait,
appreciate the sentiment of
He's
no
not
new
serious.
wars, but
He's not.
my
He's not
question
trying to
to
be
you
serious.
is: do you think that America will survive if we do not take a country like Venezuela with the largest oil deposits? Because, listen, hear me out. America creates light oil. We have a lot of fracking in this country. Most of our refineries and things that convert heavy oil is what we have here in America, which is on the Gulf of America. Yay, Gulf of America. But ultimately, when you have China, Russia, everyone teaming up with Cuba, Venezuela, who are taking over Guyana for all the resources, consider the One Belt, One Road initiative that China is putting in place. They're giving a lot of money to these regimes to make them look good so they can create infrastructure so they can win the voting power. And then they're indebted forever to China. When they take over that region and they have all these resources that we do not, and then they start launching missiles into our backyard right across the Gulf, do you think, as the leaders of the free world, that we should not intervene and take over Venezuela?
should we intervene and take over Venezuela? No, and we haven't done that. Currently, Delcy Rodriguez is in power, so your framing is entirely
Kinda.
wrong.
I mean, we're running the show. She is sort of in power, but
We're not-
Rubio
so
and Trump
you
are
asked
running
a fundamental
Venezuela.
question: how is America supposed to survive if we're not taking over countries like Venezuela? The same way that we both survived and excelled over the past 70 years. Over the past 70 years, we have seen a massive increase in quality of life, technology, medicine,
And it's awesome, right?
And it's
How
awesome.
do you keep
it's
those
awesome.
going?
It's because
Oil.
And it's because
you need oil.
It's
You need
because
heavy
global
oil.
wars haven't
If you
broken
do not
out
have
in the
this
same way they did
oil,
before.
the luxuries of what you love here in America
wait.
no longer exist.
Are you saying that pillaging Venezuela for their oil reserves and taking?
I'm not saying pillaging.
Wait,
what
you
I'm
are.
saying
You're
is,
saying taking it away. Let me finish this.
no,
You're saying
I'm saying
taking it away from the
a leader in a
civilians.
regime who is working with China and our enemies out of the equation and letting them
If we
come
wanna
back in
take
and create
China
and
out of the-
become an ally. We want Venezuela to be an ally so we can have
Correct.
access
So
to
why
the
would we
want them
take
to be
them
an
over?
ally
Then
by
make them an
by
ally.
taking over their country.
Invading them is the last way to make them an ally. That will make everyone there hate us if we break out a war in their country. Make a deal. Negotiate. Get them on your side. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, Trump has a book called The Art of the Deal, yet apparently he's terrible at negotiating.
Number two, if you're scared,
Maduro is not on our team in any way,
Delcy
shape, or
Rodriguez
form.
wait either. But let me ask you: are you okay?
So,
Are you
doing
okay?
all right
so
now.
should we or should we
been
not
like
have
3
taken
days.
Maduro as we did?
It's fine if we took Maduro. That's not even my big
Perfect.
problem.
So we're all on the same page. It's good that the regime has changed over,
But
right?
listen, no, the regime
Yes,
hasn't
hasn't
changed
changed.
over. You're just wrong. You
The
keep saying
leadership
that.
has changed over.
Okay,
One
Leadership
guy.
has changed.
Can I ask you, if
pivot.
you're so
Give it time.
if you're so scared about Chinese aggression, would you be okay with protecting Taiwan if they were invaded by China?
Yes,
Okay,
because
good.
they are the closest democratic
Okay,
ally
if
that
you're
we
so
have over
scared
there
of
in the
Russian
Pacific.
aggression, are you okay with stopping Ukraine from being invaded by sending military, not military troops, but military weapons, like we are?
So this is, I love how you bring this into the chessboard
no,
of
no, I'm
world
just-
economics.
I'm asking.
because you're
wait,
you're
no.
getting into all of our
Good
allies and
question.
stuff, but at the end of the day, when you're talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, yes, we should support. What support should we do in what capacity, right? And that's where we're never all going to agree. However, one fundamental thing is America does not create enough heavy oil to maintain the lifestyle and the strength
Focus
of
on fucking
America
renewables.
without this type of oil.
Yeah, that's why we
So,
focus
where
on
do we get it?
renewables. Renewable energy.
Venezuela. Now,
Yeah.
is that's
No,
your
renewable energy. Focus on other energy sources that are sustainable. Okay? Pioneer the transition to renewable energy so we're not left literally high and dry, dry with no oil, once we're not able to mine the oil anymore, once it's not refined enough, once it becomes more expensive to acquire the oil than it is to use it. That's true.
argument you're making?
And actually, to your point,
this
Adam,
is just geopolitical truth. We are running out of heavy oil in America.
Yeah,
and to your
we
point,
are.
Adam,
So
I think we
transition
agree.
the
We
fuck
reached
away
a
from it.
synthesis, which is you say, well, you know, the way we should do it is we should get along as we have for the past 70 years. Well, over the last 70 years, we've intervened in Latin America like 50 times. We've overthrown a lot of regimes, so we're going to keep on keeping on. It's
They
going to be
don't.
great.
It doesn't work. It doesn't
And they're
work.
creating alliances to create a socialistic party with Cuba and other enemies of America.
Bingo. Cascading effects. It's beautifully stated. Okay, we have to figure out who won that round. Was it, and you raised your paddles, was it the liberal team?
You guys are
We got one.
They
We got
muted the whole crowd.
tried and true blue. Was it me? All right, there we go. It's good. All right, now I kind of saw that one coming. Now, who won the question round? I think it's obviously the last guy, right? That was very thoughtful and serious. I think, right?
Thank you. I'm
Who's that guy?
2A
Yeah.
Daddy. I do gun stuff, Second Amendment. I'll be here all year. I live here. Come hang out. Let's shoot some guns.
Yeah, my
you guys
man.
are
All right,
awesome.
that's great. I just got a new gun. My buddy Nick Freitas gave me a Desert Eagle. and it's Catholic, and it's called The Excommunicator. It's sick. Anyway, maybe I'll have to bring that.
I'll go shooting with you for content. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
we
that'd
can
be
record
good.
it.
Do you shoot? Have you ever?
Yeah, we can do it.
Wow. All right, let's go.
Liberals are
baby.
normal people, bro. I mean, we're just normal people.
No, it's some of the, like a very few numbers sometimes.
Okay,
are.
but you can also point to Republicans who raided the Capitol. I mean, people are always going to be crazy.
Yeah,
on both
those
parties.
guys, they're going to come shooting with us too.
You wanna know
Okay, now we turn to the VIP table.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Did we solve all of the world's problems or not? Is there one more
I'm
topic
sure.
we have to get to hash out?
Oh man, I don't know.
Ask us anything.
You don't think we solved them?
I don't think you solved them, but I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know the topic.
You don't have enough. Is there any suggestion?
Gregory, let's go.
I say we take on the transgender with the Supreme Court.
Take on the
case of-
transgender with the Supreme Court. Get me out of here. I was so ready to leave after this shit.
Cases that they're hearing today, we take on that transgender issue just a little bit further.
Okay, so the Supreme Court just heard oral arguments in 2 cases. The libs won't let this issue die, which is great for Republicans, because if we were going to get blown out in the midterms, this is like our absolute best hope of turning it around. And basically, the libs are arguing that states cannot pass laws banning boys who identify as girls from girls' sports. And the court heard it, and Ketanji Jackson spoke something vaguely resembling English.
No, I'm sure.
And,
Very racist,
Clarence
Michael.
Thomas.
Of course, absolutely. And Clarence Thomas, who falls asleep during the Supreme Court oral argument, is totally fine. Good Lord. Like,
Smacked them
just because
down.
you don't understand what a sophisticated woman is saying doesn't mean that she's not speaking English. It just means your comprehension level is very low. Very low, frankly.
And the ACLU fumbled. So, what is there any particular angle with that?
Let's talk about our 5th place superstar, Riley Gaines.
Let's talk about trans women. I think is that.
You want
how
to talk
that
about
goes?
trans women?
Trans
Did you
women
have
and
anything?
Why does he
trans
want to
women
talk
and
about? He wants to talk about trans women. He's thinking a lot about trans women. He'd be watching some porn, and that was the category. People are fucking obsessed, dude.
Women's sports.
Okay, cool. I
ahead,
love
you-
talking about women's
So
sports.
Adam, is it right, Adam?
Yeah. What's up?
Since you're effectively Bill Clinton,
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, he's kind of like.
what I mean by that is like you're the only moderate Democrat left.
No, there's a lot of them. You just don't see
There's a
them.
lot of moderates out there.
How old are you?
23.
Oh shit. Okay.
No, you're good. What's up?
All right. Do you think men can become women?
Can men become women?
Yeah.
You can change genders from male. Yeah. But there's a difference between. Do you think there's a difference between sex and gender?
Do I think there's a difference between
Yeah.
sex and gender?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're 2 different terms.
So when you go up to someone in a grocery store and you're walking up to them, what do you think scientifically they're different?
Well, gender is a sociological term.
Yeah, based on like physical appearances, like hair length or other things like that. And then sex is based. It's not a joke. Sex is based on your genitals, right?
Not quite. A little more
yeah.
complicated than that.
So can I ask you a
Usually,
question? If
whether
you-
or not you produce large or small gametes, it's not quite just genitals, but yeah.
Yes, please do.
No, genuinely.
No, for real. I'm not joking with you.
Okay, so if you're walking up to somebody in a grocery store
Yeah.
and say it's a worker, and you can only see them from behind, and
Yeah.
all you see is somebody with long, luscious hair.
Yeah.
You
Is
see
it
somebody-
Gorlock,
you
the
see
devourer?
No. Say you're walking up to somebody in a grocery store, and you can only see them from behind, and you say they have long, luscious hair.
Yeah.
They have jewelry around their wrist.
Are they thick?
Do you go based on a vague assessment of social characteristics, or do you check their genitals before you check to see if they're male or female?
Before I got sober or after?
No, but you said genuinely. Which one?
See,
Which one?
Adam has to like crack a joke, like it's funny. Like, it just feels too serious, man. Like I don't know.
I would assume that they were a man or a woman.
Well, based on their.
Oh, they had with those characteristics.
I'm saying, is it based on their genitals, or do you base it on their broad characteristics?
Adam
out
did a
in
really
public?
good job in this
So
section.
when somebody out in public
Yeah.
has long hair or
Mhm.
jewelry from behind, in 2026, that could be a male or a female.
Totally.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. So the difference between sex and gender, as we laid out, is that
No,
sex.
hold on. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I'm saying that when you're walking up to someone in a grocery store and they
Yeah,
have long hair
that.
and they have a bracelet or whatever jewelry,
yeah.
they could be a man or a woman.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Stop there.
Exactly.
Okay, I have
Stop
a question
there.
for
That's all you
Gregory.
need to
I have a
say.
question
No,
for
no, no,
Gregory.
no, wait, hold up. I'm making my point. I'm making my point.
Okay, keep going.
The point that I'm making here is, and I don't know if you're too smart, too dumb to realize it. I don't know. The point that I'm trying to make here.
Maybe.
Yeah. So when you walk up to someone in a grocery store and you don't know what they are, it's because you go based on social characteristics.
Yeah.
That is gender. Gender is defined as social characteristics. Sex are your genitals. So can somebody be transgender? Can somebody who has long hair and is a male then transition to look like a female? Yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
but come on, listen.
Oh, yes,
no,
yes,
no,
thank
no,
you.
no,
No, you
listen,
said yes,
no,
yeah.
I don't grant that.
Wait, so
What
which part do you not grant?
Wait,
Which,
hold
they
on
can
a minute,
pretend.
dude.
Yeah,
Hold
they
on
can
a minute.
pretend.
Hold on a minute.
They can
I do not grant your premise.
which premise? Well, you granted all my premises and now you have a
No,
problem?
no.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because right there, you're conflating
What?
gender expression with sex, and
No.
you're
I'm not.
Hold on.
Explain the difference then.
You're
What's the difference?
You're decoupling gender expression from sex.
No, they're
and then
99.
going, they
No,
can change, bro.
You're making my point. 99% of the time, sex and gender overlaps, but in this 0.5% exception,
Yeah,
people can
but it doesn't
transition, like you
make
admitted.
them
Yeah, but I
men.
Okay,
think
wait.
the
So
point.
where's my fundamental axiom wrong? Which axiom do I have
Why are
wrong?
you using the word axiom? Oh my god. This is what I'm saying. Adam, great, love the guy. Why are you using the term axiom? They don't know what the fuck that means. The fundamental basic principle upon which my argument rests. Shakespeare out here.
You said that you reject
again,
my framing.
Again, you're
How so?
you're decoupling
How so?
by saying
Because you're saying that a guy
you're not
could,
even representing. Again, you're Bill Clinton. You're not representing your own side's
Okay,
argument.
Okay, I'll
Well,
represent
is
the
that-
side.
yeah,
I'll
your
represent the side.
Hey,
You
your-
guys want to hear from
your
me?
firmware is not updated.
Women
No,
talking
you-
about
the
women's
part where-
sports. Women talking
This
about women's
guy's
sports.
shaking over there.
I
He's
want to
shaking
ask
in the
Gregory
VIP
a question.
section.
No,
Because I'm dying to hear
Oh, wait,
this.
let me
let's
hear it.
finish
I
this
hear
topic. Hold on, Lauren. Let's
Maybe.
just finish this topic.
Oh my
The point
God.
where I think you're diverging is you're saying, and therefore this person can transition to have a transgender.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you think somebody who has male characteristics can change themselves in such a way where they appear to be female when you walk
When you
up
say
to them in a grocery
characteristics, though,
store?
what do you mean? You
I mean like
bullions.
Accidental
long hair.
properties.
I mean
Bullions.
jewelry. I mean
Superficial
the way that.
or sexual? Down
I
to the
mean,
core.
either way, it can be like tits.
Matt
It can
Gaetz.
be
But
Think
I,
about
anything.
Matt
Ooh,
Gaetz's
tits.
I
face.
can't figure out which part you're asking about. Are you saying someone who, by
Said
all
tits.
biological signs, is a man but wears a dress, or like what do you mean by the characteristics?
I mean,
both
somebody.
of those are characteristics.
Yeah, somebody who has a penis, but they have pants on, obviously, so you can't tell.
Yeah.
But then they're wearing jewelry. They have.
I don't know. Some people, when they have pants on, you can still tell they have a penis. I'm just saying. Not talking about myself. Sorry, folks. It's like almost midnight. I'm fucking gone, bro.
long hair. I mean, here's the thing.
Dude,
Yeah,
I wish
and, like,
trannies tried that hard.
and so
Yeah.
A lot
You
of
can
trans
usually
people,
tell.
ignoring the
children.
slur, a lot of trans people pass very well. It's true. They do. They look very
Not
much
even
like
good
that.
at it.
Do you get what I'm
You're-
saying?
you're
Do
Do
you
we
making-
get what
want
I'm
to have
saying?
this conversation about
And I-
penises over there?
I think you're making a great point, Adam, which is and you're granting it, Wit, which is yes, there is a distinction between sex and gender.
Of course.
Sex it pertains to human nature, and
Biological
it's
characteristics.
expressed biologically primarily.
Mhm.
And gender expression is this social performance in some ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the
Well-
problem is you're making an undue leap, which is you're saying therefore one can transition from one to the other. Just because these things are distinct does not therefore imply that they should be in conflict with one another. So the pro-transgender side says, well, you can have gullions.
no,
Hold
no.
on, you can.
What straight man ever calls breasts bullions? Bullions. Michael, what the hell, dude? He poured a very convincing gay performance in House of Shades, the short film that he was in, if you want to look that up. And he calls breast bullions. I'm sorry, this is a gay as shit. I'm sorry, he's not beating the gay allegation. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying here. I don't,
have gullions and you can dress like a woman and therefore you're really a woman and entitled to all the rights of women. But I guess I would say the opposite. If you're a man who wants to put on a dress, you shouldn't. You should bring your gender expression into line with
Oh, I'm
your
sure you
biology
can't.
and you should act like a man.
Gender expression in line with your biology and act like a man. Michael, what about wearing a dress is biologically male? Nothing. Literally nothing. Throughout history, men have worn dresses, men have worn kilts. Have you seen the men from the French royalty and any Victorian men, Victorian boys wearing dress and long hair? It shifts over time. It's stupid. It's fucking stupid.
If you're a man, you have an obligation to do that.
I think
Sure.
I think
Yeah, a
that
bunch of insecure
99%
men
of
then.
people's gender aligns with their sex. I guess the question is, if we just refer
It's true. It's 1%.
if we just refer
Less
to
than
women
1%
as trans
trans.
women, would you guys be happier? Is that literally the
No,
main?
I want them to act like who they really are.
Well, yeah, and
So
you know
if
who they
think
really
gender
are.
dysphoria is real according to the DSM-5?
I think people get confused,
Yeah,
but we
dude.
should
Wait, no,
treat
no.
it rather
Do you
than
think
affirm
gender
a
dysphoria
delusion.
is a real
I
thing?
There's
wanna
different
go-
forms
I
of
wanna go
treatment.
back to
No,
DSM-4,
I'm gonna take this
bro.
over. I want
Okay?
to hear from Rex.
I want to go back to
Wasn't
DSM-4,
this
You like
not
DSM
5.
three
No, no,
before
no.
it was
I'm
cool,
Was
trad.
man.
this a
I'm
conversation about
DSM
women's
trad.
sports and girls t-ball? Because that's what I thought this was Supreme Court hearing was. It was about elementary school children's sports. We're talking about girls and boys, which is under the age of 18. They're
Yeah, but boys still have an advantage. It's less than after puberty, but they still
What's
have
your
a physical advantage.
what's your question?
So my question is, what's the fixation around kids t-ball? Like,
I've not mentioned kids t-ball.
Yeah, like
Convenient
we're
bell,
also we're
convenient
not the
bell.
ones who change
I have
the
a
rules.
good question about transgender sports.
Hold on,
My
how many
kids
times
don't
have
play
you rung the
t-ball.
bell?
They play. What are your kids?
All right,
play?
fine. All right, we got to go. In my opinion, no one wins a bar fight. They're only losers. So the real question is, who lost tonight? The question is, who's going to buy the round? The question is, I know, I think I technically did. The question is, who is going to star in Witt's romance novel? And so, who lost? Was it Adam?
you guys hate
Yeah.
Was it
Lauren.
was it Lauren?
Yeah, they fucking hate Lauren. I'm sure.
Haters.
Was it me? Where are you? Come on, you at least got to yell. Yeah, okay, we got one of me. All
She
right.
lost in
That was
the,
me,
she
I
lost
think.
in the same way. She lost in the same way Trump lost in 2020. We still have to do some court cases. We still have to,
Yeah,
contradict it a
very-
bit.
you have
Yeah,
to check
see
some of this
you
out.
at the
There's a
Daily
little-
Mail HQ
yeah.
tomorrow with a bunch
And
of
in the same way,
bold
because
Laurens on.
Venezuela maybe stole it. I don't know. They won't
Good
steal
one,
it again.
good one.
See you all at the next bar fight. Thank you.
There you go. That was something. All right, we'll drag myself up here and we'll talk about it here. We got Destiny at Oxford Union being recommended to me. That's crazy. All right, here we go. We'll talk about it. Well, that was definitely something. I haven't watched through the whole thing. Definitely, I've just from memory what I remember when I was there, and it was definitely an interesting episode and show to say the least. My thing is those conversations are having whether you're there or not. So, I'm going to show up. I'm looking forward to my episode coming out. I think it was pretty good. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think about it. I plan to do another reaction video to that one as well. I definitely think this one got a little fierier as well, just because of some of the topics. Ours were, we talked a little bit more about the fraud in Minnesota and Nick Shirley being a sleazy little slime bag. We talked about that. What else did we talk about in terms of that? I don't have a problem telling you the topics. We talked about that. We talked about a little bit same-sex marriage. He brought up like Netflix made Will gay or something like that. So we talked about same-sex marriage because Michael can't fucking let that topic die. And yeah, so just we talked about that, and then what else did we talk about? That I think we talked about all three of my topics. Only two. One of them was Michael. Oh, we talked about that one. I don't know. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how that one airs when it comes out. But it's kind of all I got here. I don't have too much else. But this was a good. I don't know. It was a good conversation. I think that we infuse entertainment and education so much. So like was anyone's mind really going to be changed by this? Probably not. But people are talking or they're not talking, and I think people having conversations is important. I'm gonna continue to go into these spaces because I think people deserve to hear things that differ from what they want to hear. And if you have a little fun, drink at a bar, get to do that, that's great as well. So overall, it was a fun opportunity. I'm excited for you guys to see my episode. It should come out this Saturday, I believe. So that should be a fun time. But that's about all I got. If you guys have any thoughts, feel free to definitely leave them below in the comments. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Feel free to watch one of my other videos on here that I have on my channel, reaction videos. I'm going to try to be making more of those, though the content structure might switch up a bit just in general. So that's basically kind of all I've got. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.